Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Scottsdale Unified School District Governing Board regular meeting. Today is December 15th. The time is 5:06 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a roll call of board members, please, beginning with Mrs. Kirby.
Pam Kirby, Kim Hartman, Barbara Perleberg,
George Jackson,
and Bonnie Sneed. All members are present. We have a quorum present. I'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Can you hear her? Could you hear Mrs. Hartman? Okay. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion passes 5-0. The first item on our agenda this evening is student and staff recognitions and celebrations.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and welcome to our last board meeting of 2015 and our last board meeting of the first semester. It's hard to believe we have 3 more days in the school year we'll be finishing. First, we have Dr. Mitch Von Echten, who will recognize our Chaparral Theater students and their teacher, Ed Como and Sandy Flayton, as well as the Desert Mountain Players and the teacher, Marilyn Mumau, who participated in the Arizona State Thespian Festival.
Thank you very much, Dr. Peterson, governing board members, Madam President. It's my pleasure tonight to recognize our teachers and students. First of all, from Chaparral High School, if I could please have Ed Como come up with Sandy Flayton and the Chaparral Theater students. The Chaparral High School Theater group attended the Arizona State Thespian Festival as repeated as Tech Challenge champions for a 3rd year in a row, beating out 43 other teams. The team of Colton Denton, Garrett Driscoll, Sarah Harpino, and Dakota Oliveira were the students who brought home the Golden Fresnel. Is that the Fresnel itself? That's, wow. That's Fresnel, sorry, pardon my French. The event's traveling trophy. Chaparral entered 4 technical events and received superior ratings for each. Mac Woods earned a superior rating and was selected as Critics' Choice for Lighting Design. This is the 4th year that a Chaparral Technical Theater student has earned this distinction. Additionally, Jordan Rowley earned a superior rating for sound design. Alex Kopp earned a superior rating for stage management, and Sarah Harpino earned a superior rating for costume design. Chaparral also received a superior rating for group musical. Natalie Carl, Abigail Runyon, and Rebecca Steiner were also selected as Critics' Choice for their performance. The theater troupe as a whole earned Gold Honor Troupe again this year. So congratulations, everyone. Next we have Desert Mountain. If we could have Assistant Principal David Vines and the Desert Mountain High School players come join me at the podium. That's all right. Congratulations, though. Marilyn Mumau, Desert Mountain High School theater teacher, was not able to join us this evening. Regardless, the Desert Mountain High School's players were recognized as Gold Honor Troupe for their participation in performance, service, and community. Jeremy Yampolsky, who's unable to join us this evening, received a superior in solo musical theater. Colin Muller and Jennifer Kreisman received a superior for their original pantomime titled Young Love. Michael Holt's original play Disassociative was chosen winner to Playworks. Michael was unable to join us this evening also. This was the 4th year in a row that a Desert Mountain High School student earned the Playworks distinction. Congratulations, you guys. Nice work.
Next, we have Dr. Karen Benson, who is going to recognize several of our incredible teachers that we have. Our first recognition is the Arizona Teacher of the Year.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra. As many of you know, just recently, one of our SUSD teachers has been announced as the winner of one of the most coveted awards in education. Christine Marsh of Chaparral High School has been recognized by the Arizona Educational Foundation as the 2016 Arizona Teacher of the Year. Christine is an 11th and 12th grade advanced placement English teacher at Chaparral High School. Now in her 23rd or 24th year in teaching, Christine credits much of her success as being attributed to her belief in helping kids feel valued both inside and outside of the classroom. Marsh received this recognition on November 19th at the annual Teacher of the Year Awards luncheon held at the Arizona Biltmore. More than 600 attendees, including Arizona educators, elected officials, and business leaders were present. It was the 33rd consecutive year that this award was presented. As the AEF Teacher of the Year, Marsh will have the opportunity to meet President Obama, compete for the title of National Teacher of the Year, and attend an international space camp in Huntsville, Alabama. Equally important, this award allows our Chris a platform to continue her advocacy for students, teachers, and public schools. As a district administrator and as a parent, I can personally attest to the positive difference Chris makes in the lives of the students under her careful watch. Please join me in honoring Miss Christine Marsh for this most distinguished award.
Our second Outstanding Teacher Award recognition tonight is also from a Chaparral teacher, and we have the pleasure of recognizing Twyla Pressing.
Tonight I have the honor of recognizing and celebrating the accomplishments of yet another SUSD teacher. I'd like to invite Twyla Pressing to the podium with me while I talk about her this evening. Chaparral teacher Twyla Pressing was recognized by the Grand Canyon chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution as Outstanding American History Teacher for 2015-16. This is the second time Pressing has been chosen for this award, as she also won the award in Florida from the Jacksonville chapter. She will now compete in the state competition. As an additional point of pride, one of Pressing's former students won the National DAR Christopher Columbus Writing Contest last year. And if I'm understanding correctly, it was one of your finest and most humble and greatest accomplishments to be invited by that family to watch that student receive that award in Washington, D.C. This year, Pressing anticipates additional students will compete for the award. Again, I'm fortunate to get to know Ms. Pressing as a parent and a district admin, and will say that on the personal side, my son shared at the beginning of his college experience that he didn't think it could happen because Ms. Pressing is the litmus test for passion for her content area, and he said his anthropology teacher almost has as much passion as Ms. Pressing did in her Chaparral classroom. So again, please join me in recognizing Ms. Pressing for this fine accomplishment.
We've recognized some of our great academic accomplishments with our teachers. Now we are recognizing some of our athletic accomplishments, and Cliff McKenzie will be coming up first to recognize the Coronado High School football team and the sportsmanship award that they received.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson, Madam President, board members, Sandra. Good evening. It's with great pleasure to first of all, have the assistant coach, Steve Volk, up, and assistant principal is still here, David Huffine, who is the athletic director here at Coronado. If they could come up. Gotcha. Stand right here. Coach Olson was unable to be here this evening, so Assistant Coach Steve Vault is here this evening and representing Coach Olson. The Arizona Football Officials Association selected Coronado High School as the recipient of the 2015 Varsity Football Season Sportsmanship Award for Division IV. The award is presented at the conclusion of the regular season. Officials provide feedback in several areas, and the award is presented to one school in each division who displays exemplary sportsmanship during the season. The award presented during halftime of the Division I championship game which was played on November 27th. So it's a great accomplishment when the officials give this award to the schools. And I just want to say this, and I know Coach Huffine, now the assistant principal, feels the same. This football team in 2 years has grown deep, and that has all to do with Coach Olson. He has done a tremendous job here at Coronado High School and had a great season. What was it, 7-3. I was going to say 8-3, but 7-3. So a fantastic season, and congratulations to Coronado High School and the football team.
And for the second straight year, we would like to recognize Chaparral High School girls swim team who won state championships.
Correct. If I can have Coach Richie Kwizanowski to come up, and Taylor Ruck, and Emma Sonori. Did I pronounce it right? Okay. Emma, raise your hand so everybody knows that's Emma, the tall one there, and Taylor. Tammy. Because Taylor not. Okay. The Chaparral girls won their second straight swim and dive state championships over second place finisher Desert Vista this year. The team scored 359 points. The Firebirds set a meet record for the number of points. Taylor Ruck was voted swimmer of the meet for the girls, winning both of her individual events, the 200 free and the 500 free, breaking her own state records from last year, and was a part of the 200 medley relay state championship team, swimming, freestyle, and anchoring the winning 400 free relay with a new state record. Currently, Chaparral holds 3 relay state records in the 200 medley relay, the 200 free relay, and the 400 free relay. So tremendous job, congratulations. And I want to say this, Taylor Ruck was only a sophomore in doing this. So, that's tremendous. And Emma, you're a junior, correct? They've got a young team. Quite a few of them will be trying to make the Olympic team. Trials are in June. And so hopefully I'll see you in Rio, a few of you there, because I know I'll be there, so hopefully you're there too. So congratulations again to the team and to you, Coach.
Next, we would like to recognize our high school football coach of the year, Jason Mons.
Okay, is Jason here? Stand right here beside me. It's a great honor that I share this with everyone. The Valley of the Sun Chapel and the National Football Foundation has named Coach Jason Mons as the Coach of the Year. He was selected by a Blue Ribbon Committee of media and Arizona high school football experts. He will be recognized at the 23rd Annual High School Championship Luncheon this Thursday, December the 17th at the Hilton Scottsdale Resort. Additionally, Coach Jason Mons has been selected to be a game coach in the 2016 Semper Fidelis All-American game in Los Angeles, California, as well as a Team USA in the Under-18 International Bowl as Team Canada at the Dallas Cowboy Stadium in Irvine, Texas. So congratulations, Coach. It's a big honor.
And along with great coaches are great players, and we would like to recognize the high school defensive back of the year.
Yeah, and I'm going to let Dr. Peterson, I'm going to let Coach talk about his athlete. And Byron couldn't be here tonight.
Introduce the championship football team right behind
Right, yeah. And I'll get them. I'll let you talk about it. But Byron Murphy could not be here tonight, but I know Coach Mons wants to speak about Byron because he's an exceptional player. So I'll give the mic to Coach.
Thank you very much, Mr. McKenzie. On Byron's behalf, Byron has basketball practice tonight, and one of the great things that we promote at Saguaro is our athletes playing multiple sports. So I think we have 8 players right now that as soon as football season ended on Saturday at the state championship down at University of Arizona, on Tuesday they had their first basketball practice, and Byron's one of those young men helping our basketball team start off to a real good start. I think we're 5-0 in PowerPoint games so far. Byron was selected as the defensive back of the year through the National Football Foundation, a very prestigious award. Byron has over 20 Division I scholarship offers to play defensive back at the college level. He's going to be choosing which school he's going to attend in the next month or so, and he's got it down to Arizona State, Texas A&M, Washington, and USC. Byron had a phenomenal career at Saguaro, a phenomenal senior year. Not only was he one of the top defensive backs in the country, he was also a first-team All-State wide receiver. He had over 1,700 yards receiving and 21 touchdowns on offense. So a dual threat and a phenomenal player for us, and really has represented our school and our community very well. So on his behalf, thank you very much.
Let me give you this for team. Okay. Cover up all the board members over here, these young guys. Wow. You guys walk up so the board members can get an opportunity to see the hardware.
Wow. Come on, let me touch.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Watch the game.
Great.
While they're coming up, this evening we also have the proud principal of the school, Mr. Brian Quartz here, and the AD, the assistant principal, David Messner, is here as well. And I'll let Mr. Quartz speak in just a moment. The Saguaro High School varsity football team won Division II championships over Tempe Marcus Saniza at Arizona Stadium. The SaberCats claimed the victory with a score of 38-20. This was Saguaro's 8th state title in 10 years and 3rd in a row. Unbelievable. The team moved up from Division III this year. Stone Matthews carried a career high of 39 times for 291 yards and 2 touchdowns. Byron Murphy, team senior and top-ranked 2016 recruiter, scored 2 touchdowns and intercepted a pass late in the game, allowing Saguaro to run out the clock. So it's with great pride and honor to present to this governing board and Dr. Peterson our football state champions. And I'm going to let Mr. Brian Quartz speak for a second.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra, thank you for the opportunity to recognize these young men, their efforts, and their continued achievements this evening for the governing board. Coach Mons is a leader who has been steadfast in his approach with winning with integrity. These student athletes, the vast majority of our varsity football team on the student side have maintained greater than a 3.0 GPA. And I had the pleasure of being at the banquet this weekend at the end of season, and coaches called out all of the scholar athletes 3.0 or greater, went up to 3.5 and had a huge list of athletes above a 3.5, and then continued on with a significant handful of these young men who've maintained greater than a 4.0 GPA. Coach Mons and his coaching staff have maintained a belief that we will win with integrity, teach the right principles to our young people as they grow as students and student athletes. And I would like to introduce for a few moments, if I may, some comments from Coach Mons. who I greatly appreciate his leadership. Continue to be appreciative of our leadership at the Education Center for supporting our schools to maintain and retain top quality employees year in and year out, as these are the results, and the results are far bigger than the gold balls on the trophies in front of you tonight. It's the integrity, work ethic, and teamsmanship shown to treat others well, set your bar high, and do your best to achieve within your goals. Coach Mons, thank you for your leadership. Please come up.
Along the lines of what Mr. Kors said, I also wanted to thank the board for all the support of athletics, not only at Saguaro High School, but throughout the district. I know that we have several schools that have achieved throughout all the sports a high level of success, and I think it brings a lot of positive attention to our district. I just wanted to thank, while I could, Mr. McKenzie for all your support from the district level, and then our principal, Brian Court, our athletic director, David Mitzner, and the rest of the administrative staff at Saguaro for putting myself and our staff in such a great position to be successful. There's a lot of time and effort and energy that goes into that, and I truly don't think you can be successful at the high school football level without great support staff and administration that believes in athletics and supports it. So thank you guys very much for that. I also want to introduce our assistant head coach, Frank Rubin, who's the reason why I'm at Saguaro, and I've been there for the last 9 years, and who is my right-hand man and a huge part of our success as well. And I'm going to brag on one of our players while we're here. I know Mr. Court touched on our academic achievers, and it was actually 33 of our 48 varsity players had a 3.0 or better, and that's what we announced at our banquet on Sunday. That's the thing that I'm the most proud of. And one last player that I'm really proud of, I want to end, and he's not getting a certificate today, but I wish I had one for him. Jim White here, wearing number 78 in the Army camouflage pants, just received the principal nomination to West Point, which is the top nomination that you can receive. And we just had a meeting with the coach from Army yesterday, and it looks like he's going to get a chance to also play football there. So we're really proud of Jim and all his accomplishments. Thank you very much, and I hope we can be here next year for our 4th one in a row. We hope to see you at the same time next year.
And Jim, good luck at Army, because Navy beat them for the 14th time this past weekend, and they need you. Our final celebration this evening, Christine Harrington is going to share with us a video year in review.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, thank you so much for this opportunity. It has been a remarkable year. I think tonight's celebrations are a testament to that. And it's hard to believe that it's nearly 2016. So Communications Department put together a video, a year in review of 2015, and you'll notice it's narrated by Dr. Peterson. It's a number of snippets from his speeches over the course of the last year. So the video really does a much better job of saying it. So without further ado.
During this time and throughout the year, we will continue to maintain our strong focus on academic excellence that has come to this as a caring and compassionate school district, reflected through the unwavering efforts of our excellent staff who work with our students and families every day to make a difference. One of the best things about school choice is it allows parents to choose the educational model that fits their students' needs. And the best thing about Scottsdale schools is we offer something for everyone. We have 118 years of proven success. SUSD is Arizona's premier school district. We also have multiple state championships in athletics all the way to robotics. And we appreciate that you choose Scottsdale schools. Our teachers are focused and continue to work very hard to position our students for success. I know each of us wants to make a difference in the lives of our students. So we will continue to dedicate ourselves and ensure that every child we encounter has the opportunities and tools to be successful despite life's hurdles, so that they can pursue all of their dreams. Educating children and preparing them for the future is truly a team effort. Of course, it's all of our teachers and staff members who secure our success and make sure that we are desirable to so many. We're happy you all choose to attend or work in Scottsdale schools and that we are all in SUSD. We all play an extremely important role in the success of our students, and I look forward to supporting you throughout the 2015-16 school year to ensure this is an exciting, fulfilling, rewarding, and the best year ever. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Peterson.
Thank you, Christine. The next item on the agenda is public comments. And this is a portion of the Scottsdale Unified School District Governing Board meeting when we invite the public to make comments. Although not required to do so, the Governing Board values the input of the community. So we feel that it's an important part of communication with our stakeholders. As explained on the cover of the agenda, if you wish to address the Governing Board, fill a blue card for non-agenda matters and white for agenda matters. And please note that on non-agenda matters, action taken as a result of this type of public comment will be limited to responding to any criticism made by those who have addressed the Governing Board, or directing staff to look into the matter, or asking that the matter be put on a future agenda. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.01G, no other discussion or legal action is allowed. Please keep in mind that public comments represent the personal view of the speaker. They may contain incomplete or inaccurate information. If the item is an agenda item, we encourage audience members to stay and listen to the discussion pertaining to that agenda item in order to gain a more full understanding. Please approach the microphone when your name is called and in the order called. We do have a number of comment cards this evening, so we're going to be very strict about the 3-minute rule, and Vice President Jackson will give you cue cards so that you know when you're running out of time. There is a 3-minute speaking limit, and in all cases, public comment is subject to reasonable subject matter, place, and manner restrictions. Please word your comments so they're not defamatory or disrespectful in nature. The first comment card I have is from Virginia Cordy. Then after that will be Karen Treon, if you can be prepared. And then after that, Francesca Thomas.
Thank you, President Sneed and Governing Board. I'm Virginia Cordy, a longtime supporter of Scottsdale Unified School District and honorary chair of several Yes to Children campaigns. I wish to take this opportunity tonight to express my gratitude to Dr. Peterson for his 10 years of service to our school district, our community, and our children. You, Dr. Peterson, guided this district through a tough recession while looking towards the future with successful capital bonds to rebuild our high schools, our middle schools, and maintenance and operation needs. Thank you. And looking towards our future, it is our future for which we must be concerned. Strong, stable leadership is critical to navigate this district through the unknown waters of state funding or lack thereof, and many other issues facing our public school system. I am concerned that SUSD has lost 3 top administrators in the last year and a half. My longtime experience in business tells me this may be a sign of systemic malaise. So I respectfully request the board to support an independent investigation into this pattern of resignations. As stewards of this mighty school district, it is incumbent upon you, the board, to be proactive and certain that the ship maintains its integrity and continues to sail in the right direction. Thank you.
The
Didn't need
next,
to use your card, Vice President Jackson.
Karen Trion, then Francesca Thomas and Margaret Cerna.
Good evening, President Sneed, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Ms. Como. My name is Karen Trion. I have students at Hopi Elementary and Ingleside Middle School, soon to be Arcadia High School. I have volunteered in many capacities, both at my children's schools and for the district over a number of years. I learned on Friday of Dr. Peterson's retirement. I am here tonight in part to thank him for his service. I have worked with him on different issues over the years, and he's been the superintendent at a very challenging time. He's had to make some very difficult decisions. He has always made those decisions with the best interest of students as his absolute priority. Other districts statewide look to him for leadership, and we have been incredibly fortunate to have him here for 10 years. And I thank you for that service, Dr. Peterson. The main reason I am here tonight is to speak to you, the members of the governing board. We have lost 3 top administrators in the last 2 years. Like the vast majority of our senior administrators, our site leaders, and our professional teaching staff in SUSD, they were highly qualified, committed, and skilled professionals, and we lost them. I think the governing board needs to look very hard at its actions and its direction. It is incumbent upon the governing board to create a culture and environment that allows professional staff and leaders to move us forward. I am worried about the environment at SUSD, and I know it falls directly and solely to you, the governing board, to set the tone that will allow us to succeed. To succeed, to have a common mission, to build programs, to innovate, to teach, to make sure we are serving all of our students every day and fulfilling the amazing potential that we've seen here tonight. Creating gotcha moments, putting people on the defensive, dividing people, or advancing agendas that are unrelated to public education have no place here. It is up to you, all of you, to work together to create the positive environment that will allow for stability, growth, and excellence. We are at a turning point, and I hope you can all commit to building the district our community deserves. Please commit to setting the clear, positive, and exemplary tone we so desperately need. It is your obligation, it is your responsibility, and it will be your legacy. Thank you.
Francesca Thomas, then Margaret Cerna, and then Denny Brown.
Good evening, President Sneed, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, and Ms. Como. My name is Francesca Thomas, and I'm a longtime volunteer and mom here at SUSD. Today, I would like to offer up my thanks and then also a concern. First, the thanks. I would like to thank Dr. Peterson, who will be leaving us, for his many years of service to our children and to our schools. Dr. Peterson is an incredibly intelligent person with a tremendous skill set for understanding and teaching others about public schools, especially school finances and facilities. He has dedicated himself, I swear, almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to our children and their education. And there has never been a single moment in the time that I have known him that I have questioned his pure commitment to our children. I am grateful and I am wiser for having known him. So thank you, Dr. Peterson. I would also like to thank the superintendent's leadership team here behind me, whose jobs are about to become a little more challenging as we now search for a new leader. This entire team of leaders and their support staff in communications, business services, facilities and operations, HR, legal, student services, teaching and learning, transportation, and technology, all of them work tirelessly year-round to make sure that our teachers have what they need and our children are ready and able to learn. We often hear that teachers are professional and deserve to be treated as such. I wholeheartedly agree. I also think the same is true of the dedicated people who work in leadership and support roles in SUSD. And I would like to thank them, and I look forward to working with all of them collaboratively for the good of all our students. And now finally, my concern. I have lived in SUSD for over 20 years now, and I've had children in SUSD schools for 16 years. And in that time, I have seen too many superintendents come and go. Too much talent leave this district, sometimes seemingly pushed right out the door. It is incumbent on you, the members of this governing board, to ask why SUSD seems not unable to attract, but to retain great talent. What happens once folks get here in leadership that makes them want to leave. No healthy organization is sustained without committed, stable relationship. We definitely have the former, but we seem to miss the latter. And so I urge you to ask and act on why. In closing, please join me in saying thank you to all of the leaders in this room, to the teachers, to the support staff, to the administrators, and everybody who works every day to make sure our children have access to an education that engages and empowers. Every one of you, you make a difference. Thank you.
Margaret Cerna, Denny Brown, then Christine Marsh.
President Sneed, board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra. I am here to speak about Dr. Peterson's retirement, and I represent only myself in what I'm going to say. I want to thank you, Dr. Peterson, for your mentorship, for your leadership, for your direction, for your guidance, and for your support of our children. Because every time I come to you, it's always a question of what does it do for kids, and that you always made your decisions based on what's good for kids, not for the adults, but for the kids. Being a principal of a Title I school is not easy. When you became superintendent, I promised you an A+ school. My staff and I dedicated ourselves to that, and we were named the largest Title I A+ school in the history of Arizona. And that was a gift to you and to the community. I only wish you the very best. Know that you will be missed by many. And I want to invite you to come and visit and to volunteer at your neighborhood school. And in closing, I just want to say, when I grow up, I want to be like you. Thank you, Dr. Peterson.
Denny Brown. Did I say that the right way?
Denny Brown.
Denny Brown. I'm here to, board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra, you. I'm here to thank Dr. Peterson for his unwavering commitment to our kids, our staff, our team. After years of cuts by the state, Dr. Peterson has worked tirelessly to maintain the integrity of the SUSD classroom. And you know what else? You've taken heat for decisions the board makes. Like classrooms are larger because of us, and you take the heat. We cut specials, and you take the heat. Because that's the kind of guy you are, and I respect you for that. Thank you. You know, and I also want to thank the leadership team for their commitment and their professionalism. I think current survey numbers indicate 85% of our parents approve of the job you're all doing. That's huge. I hope these numbers empower you. We're going to turn to you to provide stability during this time of transition. Know how much you're appreciated. And you know what else? I'm sorry. I am sorry our incredible district has been infected by a toxic agenda, elitism, and self-serving politics, all of this giving voice, an unbalanced voice, to a malcontent minority. I've seen firsthand the lengths this group will go to discredit good people and good intentions, lies and misinformation. What does it mean that a news reporter finds out the superintendent is resigning from going to a hate-filled Facebook page before the public information release? I've heard discussions from some board members that would imply that some kids shouldn't have to be in the same class as my son. My son goes to school at 7:40, gets home at 11 o'clock, changes clothes, goes to EVIT, learns welding, comes home at 3, and then he changes and goes to work to 7. My son wants to build things. I'm proud of my son, even though he hasn't read the classics. Maybe he'll construct the lab for some chemistry kid. I guess he came from a blue-collar art family. We are not basis, who out of a cohort of 120 graduates, maybe 30, and brags about 100% graduation. SUSD takes every kid who comes through that door and graduates 91%. And yet there are board members who refuse to celebrate this and other accomplishments. We are dealing with kids' lives here, not potato chips. We can't just discard them because of their size or color or shape that doesn't fit in your bag. Everyone deserves a great public education, and SUSD is providing that education fairly for all kids. Dr. Peterson, you are a hero for education. Thank you for your service. Goodbye and good luck, my friend.
Christine Marsh and then Price Naski.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson and Ms. Como. In light of my recent Teacher of the Year honors, I want to publicly thank SUSD for valuing and celebrating innovation and whose leadership so often says yes before automatically saying no. When I go to any of them with an out-of-the-box idea, of which Dr. Peterson can attest I probably have too many, I hear from both my principal, Gail Holland, and from Dr. Peterson, let's see how we can make that work. The positive impact that a yes versus a no attitude can have on a faculty is amazingly powerful, and I'm grateful to work in a district that works with me instead of against me. I want to publicly thank Dr. Peterson. He exemplifies that yes attitude. I value how much he shies away from micromanaging. He allows good teachers to fly while supporting those who might not be ready to fly. Thank you, Dr. Peterson, for the chance to fly. I hope to make you proud in the next year. I am disheartened by the fact that Dr. Peterson is leaving. I've been at times one of his harshest critics, which I'm sure he can attest to. But my respect for him has grown into admiration. I've been here for 23 years, 29 if you count my tenure as a sub and as a student. And I was pleased to see the district really start to make headway in a positive and productive direction, and I hope that Dr. Peterson's retirement does not impede that progress. The whole situation saddens me. Long after you, the board, is gone, I will be here. Teachers will be here. Students will be here. And I hope that what has transpired in recent months and years doesn't negatively impact the long-term future of this district. I fear it will. As a board, I hope that you are actually able even to find someone to replace Dr. Peterson. I can't imagine anyone wanting a job as superintendent of SUSD. We don't exactly have a reputation or a track record of treating our superintendents well. However, I hope you look for someone similar to Dr. Peterson, someone who sees the larger political landscape of this state, someone who values innovation and out-of-the-box thinking, and someone whose main focus is and always has been the kids. Thank you.
Price Noski. Is Price here? And then Heather Harrell.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you for all you have done for me over the last 8 years that I've gotten an opportunity to get to know you through various organizations that I've been on. I know no other that is as committed as you are to our children and to this district. I thank you and I wish you well, and you will be missed. You've made a huge impact. Thank you.
Heather Harrell and Julie Sinowski.
President Sneed, Governing Board members, Dr. Peterson, Mrs. Como. My name is Heather Harrell. I'm a parent at Desert Mountain High School, and tonight I'm also here in my role as Vice President of Communications for Scottsdale Parent Council. On behalf of the Scottsdale Parent Council Executive Board, we would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Peterson for his tireless service to SUSD. You have always been available to answer our endless questions and receptive to our numerous ideas and requests. We feel fortunate to have worked closely with you for 10 years, and we wish you peace and happiness in your retirement. In this time of transition, we would like the Governing Board and the Superintendent's leadership team to know Scottsdale Parent Council is here to help in any way we can. We know that the tremendous work of the SLT just got heavier, and we thank them for their continued dedication. As the search for a new superintendent begins, please call on us if we can offer assistance. We are all on the same team, trying to do what is best for our 25,000 students. To our governing board, we ask you to look closely to what is happening in our district. We understand that the board voted to have an investigation conducted regarding the reasons for Dr. Peterson's resignation. Scottsdale Parent Council fully supports this investigation and calls on the board to do likewise and to further support the findings of the investigation. It is important that all of us, all stakeholders at all levels of this district, work cooperatively and collaboratively for the benefit of all SUSD children. Hopefully, an investigation will highlight areas that need to be improved and form the foundation for a unified community dedicated to the promise of public education. Thank you.
Julie Siniowski, and then Katie Asali.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Mrs. Como, and Dr. Peterson. With this calendar year drawing to a close, I have spent quite a bit of time reflecting on this past semester, our current state of affairs in SUSD, and have concluded many things. One is that we have a lot of diligent, hardworking, and caring people in our district. And although we may not always share the same perspective or point of view, I do believe that keeping the promise of quality education is very important to all of us. As the Scottsdale Education Association president, I feel it is important that we continue to move forward with the best interest of our students, families, staff, and teachers in mind. I'm not necessarily speaking about rules or regulations being the parameters for us as a district. I believe we can and must do better than that as our guide. As we head into this new calendar year, I urge that we carefully examine and reflect on our history as a district, determine how we reward, mentor, and support our teachers, and move accordingly. I'd like for us to develop a priority to move the direction which requires us to act in a manner that supports human decency and sensible treatment for all personnel in our district. Let's have this focus become our own SUSD guide and our compass towards serving our community the best we can. Personally, and as the SEA president, I'd like to thank Dr. Peterson for his kindness and support. I believe, this isn't counting my time, is it?
Good.
I believe he is a good man who has worked tirelessly trying to do right by so many. I do believe his position is thankless, and sometimes people find comfort in that grass is greener mentality. I think it's important for us to find comfort in knowing we care about one another. We'll choose to do right for others because it is simply the right way to treat others, and for us to do our jobs best. Isn't that the message that we want our children to learn in our classrooms? I thank you for your time this evening, and I wish you all a happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Asali, and then Roni Asali.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Dr. Peterson. Changing topic a little here, sorry. As a World History Honors and World History teacher at Arcadia High School, I'm here tonight to once again ask the board to keep World History Honors in the high school planning guide. Since the issue has been brought up and since the last meeting, we teachers have finally been able to voice our opinions and why we want to keep World History Honors, and I am appreciative of everybody who has listened. We've talked to many parties, included many teachers and district admin. We've had some really, really great discussions, but my position stays the same, as do most of my colleagues. We feel that keeping World History Honors is best for our diverse students, and as the days go by, I feel more and more strongly about it. I really, really do. Every day in my classroom, I feel so much stronger about it every day. The realities of what I go through in my classroom every day show me that freshmen and sophomores need more options than juniors and seniors. So please keep our students and teachers in mind when making this extremely difficult decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Roni, Sally, and then Eric Curlin.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson, Sandra. I want to first start out by saying how the last 3 years prior to this year, I was an SCA president, and this is my year back into the classroom, and the first half of the year have been pretty freaking awesome. I love my kids, I love my job, I love teaching, I love being in the classroom, and I almost forgot that being out of the classroom for a while, so it's really nice to kind of go back to what I started my career, my college, my colleagues. It's great. A big part of that is we do have, at Arcadia High School I'm speaking, we do have great leadership where their role, from my perspective, has really been to empower your people and almost get out of their way. And I don't say that in a bad way, but if you're going to empower them, really let them run their course and support them any way that you can. So that's been great. I think my principal is back there, so that's been great to work with leadership that way. So one thing that I focus on with my students a lot is redos, retakes, relearning, right? The goal is let's give people a chance to show what they've learned, or let's give people a chance to show their growth and their progress. And I come here speaking from the liquidated damage standpoint. Some people say I'm persistent, some people say I'm annoying, or both. But I spoke to you 2 months ago about liquidated damages, so I want to give you an update because since I spoke last, I think both parties agreed that the way that it got brought up and the way that it was presented and rolled out was not necessarily the best method. So since then, we've had leadership from district administration, classified, certified, and site admin, and moving forward, how liquidated damages is going to work. So I think that's a good thing in terms of getting all parties involved. Also, like our classrooms, when we talk about kids learning, we really ask for them to go back and show that they've learned again. So I come to you from the standpoint of we've had teachers that left that first year before anyone knew the process and knew what that looked like. They left before the school year started. They didn't make a negative impact on students. They were replaced by teachers before the school year started, and they were charged liquidated damages by not getting their 301 money, which was the money that was guaranteed to them per voter initiative that they worked hard for. They met every part of the plan. So part of me coming here to talk is if our goal is to learn from our mistakes, and our goal is to move forward, and our goal is to assume positive intentions, right? Kind of walking in with your best foot forward. One of the best ways to do that is to acknowledge the power to go back and fix our mistakes. And that's one of the things that we can do. So it was presented, hey, can we honor those employees that have been with us for many, many years and put in a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of work and give them that money back, considering no negative impact to students happened, and also considering that no one really knew the process. And the response was no. The decision's been made, we're not going to do that. So what I'm here to do is, again, it's really more of an update because the decision doesn't fall in the board's role, but since I brought it to you in the first place, I just want to let you know that sometimes we have solutions that are really, really simple and problems that are really, really simple to fix, and the more we can fix them together, the better as a district we can move forward together. Thank you.
Eric Curlin.
Members of the governing board, elected members, I know you volunteers, and I thank you for your service. Sandra, how are you? Good. Dr. Peterson, real quickly, I want to thank you for your service. Quick story, when I was a Roni and a Julie, I was driving to Tucson to play golf, and I don't mind driving 2 hours if the golf is free. And I had some time to talk to somebody who is in charge of leadership as to how we can solve a problem for teachers. And I want to thank you for being available on a Sunday morning at 8:30. We spoke for an hour, and that's just one part of what you do and what you'll continue to do and bless somebody with your presence. So thanks for that. But I do want to talk about briefly the celebrations that we have for students. I was sitting in the back there, and I don't know if it's because my medication's not working, but I was really getting teary. Anybody else get teary when those kids are up there and they talk about sportsmanship award? Yeah, raise your hand, Gar. Okay, I'm not alone. So when the last celebration came and Christine Marsh was celebrated as Teacher of the Year, first time ever for Scottsdale, 200 and something districts. We're, what, 30 times it's been done. Do the math, around here, a math teacher, but that is awesome. And so what we do for our kids in the classroom and what we do from leadership and from volunteers, we cannot do that without having a presence in the political realm. And I'm talking about superintendent of the state, talking about legislative people from our districts, and I encourage you all to encourage Christine to take this platform of this year long of what she's learned in the classroom and to run with it. And I hope you take on public service in a greater role, because everything we can do by ourselves, we still get stomped by somebody at the State House. So we all know what we want. We want to be here and we want to help. So after this meeting, I encourage you not to just say, oh yeah, that was really good, Carolyn, that was really good. Talk to somebody close over coffee, perhaps over Christmas goose, and say, well, I know this great person, Christine Marsh, and she's going places. And I'm going to help her go places, because in about a year and a half, she's going to need your help. And it's not going to be a conversation over Christmas goose. It's going to be involving you getting your shoes on and walking from door to door and getting her the help she needs to make the decisions that help us and our kids. So thank you very much. Dr. Peterson, have a great life. I'm sure we'll get together again sometime. And everybody else, thanks for your service.
The next item on the agenda is superintendent comments.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and the public. Just first like to recognize that first semester is coming to a quick end in 3 days, and I'm proud of everything that our teachers and our students are doing in the classrooms. They are truly finishing strong, and we're very happy for all the work that's gone on. We've had a tremendous amount of success this year, and you've seen some of it this evening. I also would like to recognize our community and say that I am grateful for the support they give our students. And I'm going to share a little bit of that with you in a minute. But we have an incredible community that does good for kids. And we need to recognize that because they are very giving. And many times we don't even have to ask. They just knock on our door and say, we want to do something. And I think that shows that we are truly a great school district in a great city. And we have a great community that supports us. The Arizona Merit Scores were released. You're going to hear a presentation from that this evening. Our students on average scored 20% higher than the state average, and we also scored some significant increases, and you will see that in a presentation in a little bit. I'd also like to recognize our building service staff, our IT staff, and our custodial staff, because we moved our education center a week ago over a weekend, and it was truly amazing. We shut down on Friday afternoon, and on Monday morning, we were fully up and running in a new office. Everything worked. We turned on the computers, they worked. We turned on the lights, they worked. And everybody had boxes that they could unpack. And they're still unpacking their boxes. So it was a tremendous effort that just doesn't happen without talented people that were dedicated and caring. They were there troubleshooting and taking care of everything. And most people didn't even know that we were shut down. But to move across town, and I'm proud to say we have finally put Scottsdale schools back in the city of Scottsdale. Mojave Middle School hosted the first LEGO regional tournament. It was attended by 23 teams. Our Saguaro Sabercat robotics team organized the tournament, and the team is now in its 5th year, and they're growing their community outreach. We had teams from Tavan, Yavapai, Cochise, Laguna, and representatives from Navajo that participated in the tournament. That tournament qualified 5 teams to go to state, and all of those teams were SUSD-based teams. So we're very proud of the performance of our first LEGO League. Also, I would like to recognize our community, what took place during Thanksgiving break, and what is going to be taking place over the winter break. Our service learning program, our JAG program, community specialists, and school social workers collaborated with community partners, including the Paiute Center and Feed Our Babies, to provide food to SUSD families for Thanksgiving and for the upcoming holidays. Right now, we have 16,000 pounds of food that is being distributed to the students in our district that are in need. That's significant because last year we had 9,000 pounds of food. So we've almost doubled the amount of food that we'll be distributing to our families during this winter break. Many of our students only get the nutritious meals that we are able to distribute to them. And so I applaud all of our community support and volunteers and our students that have made that happen. We have students that just give every single day to make sure that they serve the underserved. And I think that's a trademark of Scottsdale Schools, and I'm proud that we have that happening. Finally, I'd like to give a plug for tax credit. We all know that we're coming to the end of the year, and donations represent a win-win situation for community members and SUSD students. They can be claimed on state income tax. Donations support education and will be used for before and after programs, music competitions, tutoring, field trips, and athletic programs. If you'd like to make a donation, please visit our website at taxcredit.susd.org. We will also have staff standing by on New Year's Eve to collect your donations. And one of the exciting opportunities that we have coming up right after the first of the year is we actually have an internationally known conductor from China who is coming to conduct the Student Honor Orchestra. And the conductor is coming here. All expenses are being paid through organizations in China. He will spend 2 days with our honor students, and then they will have a community performance that he will be performing at and conducting. And it's really incredible because he's been sending everything over to us in Chinese, and we have to translate it and then get it to our students. And our students are already taking the music and practicing it, and it's going to be a spectacular concert. So please look for that right after the first of the year, and please look to attend that because it will be a great honor for our students to be exposed on a high international level to a conductor that is coming to do what's good for Scottsdale Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended consent agenda. Those amendments, and I'd also like to make 2 clarifications. One to the board. One is item 7N. The motion is as written, but the background information should say pending approval of item 7R, which was added to the consent agenda. And in relation to item 7R, the information was provided on the separation agreement was provided on pages 16 and 17 in the board packet. So I just wanted to make those clarifications. And I'd also like to remove item R, 7R. Are there any other comments? Okay, Mrs. Perleberg.
I would just like to ask that we remove for some clarification discussion item N as well.
Okay. Thank you. Mrs. Hartman.
Same comment. Thank you.
Mrs. Kirby.
Thank you. I'd like to remove item, make sure I get it right, 7H.
Okay, so then can I have a second? I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended with items 7H, 7N, and 7R being heard separately. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Mrs. Kirby, you asked to have the first item, it would be 7H.
Yes, thank you. There's just an error in those minutes. Towards the bottom, it said the motion was approved with the vote of 4-0. Ms. Kirby left the meeting at 4 p.m. It was actually 5 p.m. that I left, as I stated that I had communicated to Ms. Como on December 3rd.
Okay. So there are correction to the minutes for December 7th. Mrs. Kirby, would you like to place that in the form of a motion then to accept it?
I move to accept item 7H as amended, as I just amended.
With correction of
With
5
corrections,
o'clock.
yes.
And I will second that. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda that we removed for discussion is item 7N. And Mrs. Perleberg.
Thank you. I just wanted some clarification before the vote to kind of understand after our vote what the next steps will be, and try to understand how the parameters for a potential contract would be laid out if this passes.
Okay, and let's see, we'll just go ahead and answer them one at a time then, because I know Mrs. Hartman also has one. The governing board is first of all, as far as the parameters go, we're trying to get everybody together this week so that you can submit any questions to ASBA should this motion be passed.
Okay.
And it would be about process, so it would be an open meeting. Just giving everybody a chance to have input into how they see the process going, and also to ask any questions, because most of us are new at this and have been lucky enough to not have to go through it before. So that would be, we're trying to get something together this week on that.
Okay,
And
so just so I'm clear, so that's our first step after
Right.
this.
It would just be like a pre-conference meeting.
Conference to discuss parameters of a contract at that time.
Right.
Okay, and that's with an ASBA representative?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And then do we know beyond that how the process works at all?
Well, assuming that we can get together for a pre-conference,
Okay.
then we can talk about what the next steps will happen at the pre-conference. And if you are talking about an interim superintendent, because that's
correct, right?
Okay.
That's my understanding as well, that this is
Right.
for an interim, but yet at this point we haven't determined the time frame for that interim. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. That will be done at this meeting, the first meeting.
Right, and we'll figure out, we'll all pull out our calendars and see how soon we can get working on this, depending on the information that we learn at that meeting.
All
And
right.
hopefully that'll be in the next couple days.
Okay. I
Can't be
understand.
tomorrow because we're
Sure.
the 24-hour notice.
No,
Mrs.
understand.
Hartman, did you have a question?
I do, thank you. I have a little bit of a statement and a question as well, because there's very rare opportunities that we actually can speak to the public. So just a comment and a statement. First, thank you for the public comment from many heartfelt thoughts. I too have been a stakeholder in this district for over 15 years. The first 14 years as a parent and volunteer, and the last year as a board member. I have to say, my 14 years as the parent and the volunteer audience seat pales in comparison to the experience to the behind the curtain board member seat. As a parent, we judge the results of a district's performance based on our own child's individual experience. As a board member, it's far more complex. What actually happens behind the curtain to create the individual student experience is nothing short of incredible. Today's agenda reflects that complexity. The agenda represents millions of dollars in payroll and purchase order decisions, tens of thousands of dollars in APT and PTO gifts, hundreds of thousands of dollars in community tax credits. Each of these decisions, the result of the SUSD team and community working together to strengthen and support an outstanding Scottsdale public education. As we discuss later tonight, this agenda also reflects SUSD's best-in-class AZ Merit student performance results, continuously improved upon student curriculums and ever-improving board policies. Each of these accomplishments, the result of this senior leadership team's commitment to SUSD and the students' individual classroom experiences. Tonight's agenda also includes an agreement for the early retirement of our superintendent, Dr. Peterson. Dr. Peterson, I would like to thank you for the countless hours of service, both in front of and behind the curtain. These results would not be present without your leadership. Your commitment to Scottsdale Unified and public education is unparalleled. You have gifted SUSD with a tremendous legacy. which includes one of the top performing pre-K through 12 districts in Arizona, with one of the largest college and career-ready student populations in the state. In addition to the district's financial stability, innovative revenue models, collaborative community and business partnerships. However, one of the most important legacies is the tremendously talented senior leadership team that is here tonight. To this team, I would like to say, you can count on my support. Please feel secure in your roles and continue your great work. Together, we will successfully work through this transition, plan for the future, and continue to deliver outstanding Scottsdale Unified results, one day, one student at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hartman. Mrs. Kirby, is your... Okay.
Oh, I do have a question too.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Mrs. Hartman.
That's okay.
Proceed.
Thank you. In addition to Board Member Perleberg's question on consent item N, the request is to approve the contracting with Arizona School Board Association to facilitate the search of an interim superintendent. How do we also see in pursuing a permanent replacement and when that's appropriate?
That would be a separate search. That would be a separate line item. And because it would be so much more extensive, Anna didn't want to automatically assume that we would be going there this evening.
Madam President,
Yes.
I just want to remind you that
It's not
that is
on the
not actually
agenda?
on the agenda.
Okay.
And you're trying to have a conversation, and it's a little awkward if it's not on the agenda, but we have to just be mindful of that.
Okay, thank you. So, I'll, yeah. So at this time, we'll vote. Can I have a recommendation that the governing board approve the contract with?
I actually didn't get to ask my
I'm sorry, Mrs. Kirby.
So, with respect to this interim superintendent search, what is how do we define interim? And I'm asking that from a time perspective. Is interim 8 months? Is interim 6 months? Is interim undefined until we interview candidates? I'm just curious what that means.
I'm looking for help here, but my understanding is that it depends on how long it takes us to get the process finished to find a full-time superintendent, pending approval of item 7R this evening.
Well, okay, I'm just not tracking with you. My question is not about our process and how long that takes. My question is, when we say interim, what time frame do we mean by that? Is it to get us through June 30th? Is it to get us through?
It's to get us through
March
until a permanent replacement can begin.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you very much.
So do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 That motion passes 5-0.
Madam President, if I may add one thing, we'll be sure to notice your first discussion with ASBA to include if you want to discuss steps beyond that so that you can have that discussion too.
Thank you. And thank you for keeping us on track. The next item that we pulled was actually in the same relation because I'd like to comment. The last item that we pulled was item 7R, and that is in respect to, it's on the amended agenda in respect to approval of the employment separation agreement for Dr. Peterson, and this was the item that I chose to discuss thanking him so much for his service and to let him know that I wish with all my heart that I could vote no on this. But this is one of those complex things that Mrs. Hartman talked about that goes on behind the curtain. And sometimes we have to go against what we personally want, and lose a lot of sleep in our decisions. And I hope that everybody understands that. And it's not just the board, it's also the leadership team and the teachers and the principals. There's nobody in this district that goes unaffected when you lose a dedicated superintendent. It hurts everybody. And I brought my water so I wouldn't cry. But I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Peterson. I hope you have felt my support through your tenure, and I wish you the very, very best in the future. Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
It's going to be a long night, so I'll try to be brief. I too, I guess, want to take this moment quickly to thank you, Dr. Peterson, for your friendship and your what I consider outstanding and strong leadership. We're in a much better place today than we were when I got on the governing board, and I think much of that credit is due to your strong leadership. You have been a positive, dedicated, clearly, as I mentioned in something earlier this week, you're the hardest working man I know. And I actually wrote comments down. You're never supposed to go off your written comments because then you start rambling like I'm doing. But we are in a much better place today, and I give you much of the credit. We've maintained our A rating. We've just hired 70 new teachers. We've been able to, through our override, provide much indeed and overdue raises for every person in this district. And I believe the community supported that override, much of it due to their confidence in your leadership, as did I. So I guess I want to just, last thing I want to say is I want to mirror what Board Member Hartman said to our SLT. You absolutely have my support too. These are going to be, we will get through this. And I know that we're going to be okay because we have you folks, along with obviously our outstanding teachers and principals, but we have such strong leadership here. Dr. Peterson has a very deep bench, and we're going to need that bench, but it's there. And so you've got my absolute support too. As far as I'm concerned, you're all absolutely secure in your roles. So I hope you rest assured at that. And anyway, I too would like to vote no, along with Board Members, President Sneed. But thank you, Dr. Peterson, for your outstanding leadership. We're in a much better place because of it.
Mrs. Kirby?
Thank you. I just had a question for Ms. Marshall. There she is. I'm looking through the board book for the separation agreement, and I can't find it. My question is it the same separation agreement that you emailed to the board over the weekend? Has it changed?
It has not changed at all. It's the same one that I emailed to you, and
it was 16 and 17. That was the
when I looked at it. It was at page 17, I think. 16, 17.
Sorry, I just can't.
But it is exactly the same.
Okay. Do you have any other speaker requests? Because
I don't. Oh, Mrs. Perleberg?
Okay. No, I want to review this real quick. Oh, go ahead.
I will speak very quickly. I didn't prepare anything, but I do want to address Dr. Peterson as well. And some may have looked at our relationship as a bit tumultuous or difficult, but I always looked at it as constructive. And I always felt that our relationship and our communications were always dedicated to making SUSD better. And I thank you for those chances for communication and discussion and dialogue. I also thank you for your incredibly tireless service to SUSD, and your passion and your caring has certainly been contagious as well. And so I do thank you for that service, and I wish you well.
Mrs. Kirby?
Thank you for affording me the opportunity to read through that real quickly. So I prepared some statements tonight as well, and I will stick to the script. Dr. David Peterson deserves our thanks and praise for a lifetime devoted to educating children. For 10 years, he's led the Scottsdale Unified School District as superintendent through both challenging and changing times. He is a man that wears many professional hats, but his expertise in finance has contributed greatly to the challenges of the past several years. He is the hardest working individual I have ever served with in both the private and public sector. I wish him the very best in his future endeavors. His retirement offers us a chance to praise him for his service, but it also gives us a chance to bring new ideas to the table. The Scottsdale Unified School District is entering a new season. The district governing board is now tasked with finding new leadership best suited for this changing season. Populations are shifting, demographics are changing, charter schools are competing for students, funding is always in flux. Over 1,000 students left our classrooms in just the past 2 years. These factors have taken their toll. The district is facing declining enrollment, waning test scores, and we're seeing too many great teachers and principals leave the Scottsdale Unified School District. As we look for a new superintendent to lead us, we have the opportunity to bring in fresh and innovative ideas. We've seen 2 rejected budget overrides and 1 that was recently passed. While we are grateful for the most recent passage, we need to review our batting average, not to mention why we need to keep coming to the voters asking for more money. We know who we are, and we know who we want to be. We know we need to get back on track to improve achievement, improve our organizational health, improve our staff retention, particularly our principals and our teachers, and recapture the market that SUSD serves, and demonstrate the financial stewardship that prioritizes our dollars to where it matters most, in the classroom with our teachers and our kids. With all due respect to private schools and charter schools, I believe the schools within our district can and should offer the ultimate choice. Moving forward, we need leadership with the courage to ensure funds flow to the classroom on behalf of parents and taxpayers, rather than growing layers of administration. We need leadership willing to make bold decisions to build a culture of empowerment. And we need to make sure that these decisions are made in the light of day, so that the public understands our goals and supports them. This will be a journey, and it will be rocky at times. We won't always agree with each other, but we shouldn't run or hide from our disagreements. Let's deliberate publicly so our stakeholders understand why decisions are made, and then let's tie those deliberations to action. As a board, our job is to ultimately represent the people we serve. I will never apologize for a tireless commitment to accountability and achievement. I am not satisfied with where our district is at. This doesn't make me or Like Voices unfortunate critics. It makes us the district's biggest cheerleaders. For we know the potential of our students and teachers, and we will not rest until we get them to the great place they deserve to be.
So can I have a motion to approve item 7R, please?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. So that passes 5-0 to recommend that the governing board approve the employment separation agreement with Dr. David J. Peterson, superintendent. The next item on the agenda is item 8A. This is an information discussion item only. It's regarding Arizona's measurement of educational readiness to inform teaching, the AZ merit results.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Dr. McNeil and Dr. Von Echten will present the results of our AZ merit. And as you'll see in the data, our results aren't waning. Our results are actually very, very strong. We are in the top 7% of all school districts in the state of Arizona. We are also one of the top 3 school districts of the largest school districts in the state. So we've done quite well. We are continuing to be strong. And according to that batting average out there, passing an override, 1 out of 3, most players in the professional leagues would love to have a 33% batting average. 333. So I think we're doing doggone well, and we're proud of it. So Dr. McNeil, take it away.
Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, Dr. Von Echten and I have the extreme pleasure to present the first year's AZ Merit results publicly at a board meeting. First of all, I think it's important in year one of a new test, a new platform for taking the test, and a great big shift in public education. I think it's important that we lean to the teachings and the readings from Michael Fullen to perhaps shape the frame when looking at data. Michael Fullen is very thoughtful in talking to organizations and schools to make sure that when we get a bunch of numbers, be very careful about the conversation that occurs following. And I believe in a test that was absent of the IT, the informed teaching part. I think it's very, very important as an organization and as a body that we are very thoughtful to our students, to our families, to our principals, and to our district leaders as we talk about school data, district data, etc. So Mitch and I are going to try to make this exciting, but I don't think we will. Numbers are very seldom exciting, and taking the view that we're looking at today for the first time, we're going to do our very best, but I'm not too sure it's going to be too exciting. First of all, on October 6th, our schools did receive their school information, and immediately I will assure you that all of our principals and principals across the state were happy to get their information. Usually we do, in the years past, the Ames data would be given to us in early months of June, and most of the time principals were digging through the information during their summer months and trying to figure out where they were. So this year, this last summer, not getting that, I believe left many of our principals a little hungry, a little sad, and a little anxious. So I do know on October 6th, when the information was delivered to our schools, the first part, the principals with their staffs started to compare themselves to themselves. It is important to point out that comparing the AZ Merit results to the last year's Ames results, it's two different tests, two different scales, two different things, but the human nature in our principals and our leaders, and I think as our teachers, is to compare ourselves to previous years. So I can assure you that there was a lot of self-to-self reflection going on at the sites through the month of October. On November 30th, the embargo was lifted across the state. All of a sudden, everybody got to see how everybody did on December 1st. That changed basically the view of what we were looking at. Prior to that, within SUSD, schools, all of our schools, got everybody else's information, so they got to compare themselves to like schools. Many of the parameters that would create what a like school looks like would be size, free and reduced rates, things like that. So schools started to look at their data and compare it to like schools. And then I think with the idea in mind that the external standard is that all students can learn. From there to the macro level, I can assure you that on those dates mentioned prior, the district office and leadership started looking at the results as well. On December 1st, when we started getting the information from our colleagues across the state, we started to view ourselves and reflect on how we did as an organization. The three recommendations that Michael Fullen point out is never condone presenting data, comparing schools without context. Context is huge. This was year one. Not making excuses by any means, but it was year one with a new median, with many of our schools doing it online. So we need to be very, very careful about framing the environment and the location, and then having the conversation. Number two, never take 1 year's results too literally. Make sure that we're looking at schools for who they are and looking at subgroups with the understanding of each subgroup. And number three, when seeing low performance, I believe it's an opportunity for us to look for capacity. Don't dwell on the bad news. Recognize the opportunities for success. And I believe through Dr. Von Echten and my leadership with our sites, we echo this to our sites. The data is what the data is. Look at it, learn, reflect, move forward, set high expectations. So with that said, we are going to show just merely
how SUSD did versus the state. On this graph, you can see for third grade English language arts and mathematics, the left picture shows ELA third. The blue is the state. So across the state, the passing rate was 40%. And in the SUSD schools, for ELA, it was 62, a 22% difference for our third grades. Much to be happy about there. In mathematics, 41% for the state passing rate, 54 for SUSD. For fourth grade English language arts, 41% at the state level, 61% at SUSD, a 20% difference. Mathematics, 41% for the state passing rate, 58% for fourth grade SUSD, a difference of 17%. For fifth grade, the state passing rate for ELA was 32, and for mathematics it was 53, a 21% difference. For mathematics, 39% at the state, 54 for SUSD, which would be a 15% difference.
Okay, and at the middle school level, we have first our sixth graders, and with the state in ELA, we had a percent ranking of 36% comparative to a 49% for SUSD. In sixth grade math, that narrows. We had a 32% passing rate for our SUSD students versus a 36% passing rate for the state. Seventh grade ELA, 33% for the state, 48% for SUSD. With math in seventh grade, a 30% passing rate for the state and a 43% for SUSD. Eighth grade ELA in math, we had 34% passing for the state versus 49% for our ELA students in SUSD. In math, that was 33% for the state versus 47% for SUSD. Ninth grade ELA, 26% passing for the state versus 31% passing for SUSD. 10th grade ELA, 32% passing for the state and 43% for SUSD. And 11th grade ELA, 30% passing for the state and 40% passing for SUSD. When we look at math in the high schools and our middle schools, we have Algebra 1, 32% passing rate for the state versus 47% for SUSD. Geometry, 30% for the state versus 41% for SUSD. And lastly, in Algebra 2, 30% passing for the state and 44% for SUSD.
So from that information, there were lots of conversations. Okay, what does all that mean? How did it look in the past compared to Ames? Were the percentage differences at each grade level the same roughly when the Ames was? Was it 22? Was it 6%? All those conversations happened within our teaching and learning team and with all of our elementary principals, and lots of continued conversations will come from that. I can assure you that the teaching and learning team and principals and PLCs across the district continue to look at opportunities for success, as well as celebrate the great work that is being done and the magic in the classroom. One bit of information we did want to share, as we want to compare ourselves to like people, because that's just who we are as individuals. This was presented by the ADE, and it basically took the percent passing for ELA for these districts. These do not include charter schools. These are school districts across the valley. As you can see, we added up the top 25, and here are the top 15 rankings among the hundreds of districts across the state. And as you can see, we are tied for 9th place at a 48% passing rate. I don't want us to focus on the 48 so much, but the ranking. If we look back to our history of how we were ranked, this is pretty accurate to where we were at. I want to note that when looking at these districts, and Owens School District, for example, love them, don't know where they are, but there are 17 students at that district. So St. David, I believe St. David is up there. We're at 8th place at their passing rate. They have 410 kids, and Cochise Elementary District has 83 kids. So we need, again, Michael Fullen's work about putting it into context, 24,000, 25,000 students versus 83, is it a fair comparison? So as more human nature in us, okay, let's start looking at who we look like. Okay, let's pick a couple school districts that have the same free and reduced rates across the district. So for us to look at, in the past, we always looked to Chandler, Paradise Valley, and Gilbert to see basically a benchmark of how we are doing. And I can assure you that our results with those districts is right at where we need to be in both ELA and mathematics. Sure, are there opportunities for success? You bet. Are we seeing greater successes at some grades and greater concerns at other grades? You bet. But I just want to put this into perspective as we move forward. I'm assuming in future work studies to dig deeper into the numbers, because I know numbers have been provided to you more in detail. But again, our intent tonight was to just first publicly present this from a higher level view. In looking at the math ranking again, you can see that Scottsdale is ranked 12th there at 47% passing rate. But I also want to mention some of our districts that are above us. Congress District, 105 students. Catalina in Foothills, which is in Tucson, very powerful district, very well known. They have 4,900, only 25% the size of us. Alpine, 55 students. Topak, 100 students. Hyder, 100 students, and Snowflake, 2,300. So of the schools that are above us, which is more than half, the most is at 4,900 kids. So again, let's put this into context. Let's look at how we're doing versus districts that look like us. And then once we shake it all out and have the conversations, then we can pat ourselves on the backs in certain areas and say, hey, we're doing okay. Or, you know what, we need to do a better job. And ask the hard questions about what we're doing at the sites and at the district level to ensure that our kids are successful. So with that, I'm sure we're going to have questions from you all. So thank you very much.
Questions from board members? Mrs. Kirby.
Thank you for your presentations. And can you go back to the slide of Michael Fullen?
I hope I can.
Well, it's not imperative. You don't have to. You can't get there. But I found that slide fascinating. And I actually took the liberty with my Amazon Prime same-day delivery membership. Yeah. I ordered Michael Fullen's book, which is called Turnaround Leadership. And there's some points made in this book that I want to just review with you both and get your feedback and get your thoughts. It talks about how we I don't want to say turn schools around, but improve achievement in all schools. And it actually has in this book several features or steps that we must have, things we must have in place to get there. And the first one is a clear understanding that the entire proposition depends on the quality of our teachers. And I guess my question is, do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I thought that was a softball. I was trying to there's no trick question, there's no gotcha in that. And then it talks about capacity building, which is up there on your slide. And it says that capacity building concerns any strategy that increases the efficacy of teachers to improve student learning. So again, we're coming back to teachers and helping them meet the goals. Then it says a relentless focus on raising the bar and closing the gap. Raising the bar and closing the gap. So when we looked at our schools on the AZ Merit results, we had a very wide range of scores, performance. And so would you agree that we can take those schools that are on the higher ends, the 70s, those schools that scored an ELA in math on the 70% passing, and move them to the 90s? Let's go for the moon, and then close the gap on the schools on the other end. And can that also happen within a school? You have students that are high performers, students that are low performers. And can we do the same thing with them within a school?
Yeah.
Can we do the same thing with them in a classroom? If we have high achievers in the same classroom, those 70% passing kids with the 13% passing kids, can we grow the high end and close the gap on the lower side?
That's our duty.
Okay. Do we have the resources in our classrooms to do that every single day today? That's my question for you. Do we have what we need today to achieve that goal? And this is also not going to be a gotcha question. I want you to think about it. And we're about to head into budget season, right? And I want to empower you and encourage you both to come to the table, not with what you think we need to hear, what we want to hear because of the financial constraints we're under, but tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear, but what we need to hear from you. What do our teachers in our classrooms need? And I'm going to ask you this because I also think this is a softball question. Does every classroom have the same need? Yes or no? Does every classroom in our district have the exact same need? No. So it's safe. I would encourage you to feel safe in saying what we need at A&LC is in a 5th grade classroom is very different than what we need at Redfield's 2nd grade classroom. And bring that to us. And then allow the board to dialogue and deliberate with you on how do we get this done. And do that openly and in public so that the community can see the engagement and the understanding and they'll have the buy-in of what we're trying to do.
Madam President, Board Member Kirby, I can promise you that Mitch and I will do that, and I don't think either one of us will always just tell you what you want to hear. I think we're not afraid of hard conversations as well. In reference to the resources, why don't we add principals to that question? Do the principals have what they need along with the teachers? I think listening to you speak about the quality of teachers and the capacity building, I go back to my days of Larry Lazat and Assembly Required to talk about systems and frameworks and creating conversations with teachers and administrators to raise the expectations and get the quality product. Do all of our grade levels look the same? And all the teachers' needs, are they all the same? No. We have human beings. They are not robots. Our staff, our wonderful teachers, our wonderful principals come into this job at different stages of their lives. They all have personal things going on in their lives, and every classroom looks different from year to year. I know my 4th grade classrooms, my 6th grade classrooms, I could go on. So the needs are constant. They are not static, and I think it is our obligation as a organization to have those conversations and making sure that we are listening to our teachers and our principals to ensure that we are giving them every tool and resource and system and framework possible to do right by kids.
Thank you, and I appreciate your comments. And I do want to recognize that we have been under years of budget constraints, and that those conversations, while we may want to do that, we've been affected by consequences outside of our control to some degree. But I see a new horizon, and I want us as a district to be poised and ready to take advantage of that when it happens and to hit the ground running very quickly. So I look forward to our budget discussions, and and I appreciate the slide and the whole presentation, but I do appreciate the thoughts, and I will finish reading the whole book. So thank you very much.
Mrs. Hartman.
Thank you. Comment and a question. So I'd like to share some thoughts around capacity building, because I happen to teach capacity building as well as consult on capacity building. And if you'd like to read another excellent book, I would suggest Dr. Kenny Stevens, who is the world's probably renowned capacity building for nonprofit organizations, who I work personally with through the Piper Center. So capacity building is 5 things. And so when you're thinking about capacity, I'd encourage you to think about these 5 things. Number 1 is the mission. Okay? The mission is to engage, empower, and educate every student every day. That's the mission. The other 4 components of capacity building are financial resources, process and systems, management and leadership, and here's a good one, 5th is governance. And here is the analogy that Dr. Kenny Stephen Smith uses and what I use with the many nonprofits I work with, is think about it as a table with legs and a flower pot on it, okay? So the flower pot, number 1, is the mission. The components that support the other 4 capacity building are actually the tables, or excuse me, the legs on the table. And so the art of high performance, sustainable organizations is that those 4 legs are stable so that you can deliver the mission, so that it has a stable foundation. So if, for example, our expectations of our mission is over here, yet our financial resources are here, or the quality of our governance is here, or the quality of our systems and our processes is here, or the quality of management is here, if those 4 things are not supported equally, you will have wobbly table legs and you will have a wobbly mission. So, to reframe Board Member Kirby's question, when you think of capacity building, please think of it holistically and come back with the whole list, because you do not get an output without inputs. And that is incredibly important, and that is not an easy executable thing to do by any organization, but that is what the definition of capacity building is. My question for you, and I've asked this of you before, so I don't know if you had a chance to look into it, but what I'm really interested in is when you look at our K-5 results, and then you look at our 6-12 results, and the delta, which is phenomenal, by the way, between our outcome and the state's outcome, we're about 20 points on average greater than state from K through 5. And it's like 13, 15%, and 6 through 8. What my question is our K through 5 graders have only experienced Arizona College and Career Ready standards, since we're stair-stepping that in as a district. So is there any correlation between the phenomenal results in K-5 and then, what we're seeing a little bit later on?
Madam President, Ms. Hartman, I can look into the crystal ball and I can say what I think, and I'm not gonna say what I think. I will quote the 5th grade team. Oh, yeah, I will. But I will go first to the 5th grade team at Kiva at a early release Wednesday conversation as wonderful Principal Noonan. They're talking about mission and vision and having the conversations about who we are and how are we doing and what do we want to be when we grow up and where are we going and what do we need and all those great questions. I was just a visitor in the back having half a sandwich and a soda, just taking in the great conversations. The 5th grade team stood up and one of them raised their hands and said, I want to point out to why I believe our scores are so great at Kiva and for the 5th grade. And she said it's the first year that our babies have had consistent higher level standards taught from a systemic approach at Kiva, where teachers talk to each other with the principal, they look at information, they look at the data, and they have clear standards with rigorous expectations. That 5th grade team stood up and said, we believe it. And, I don't know, I do believe it, there is a correlation, but you know what? If that 5th grade team believes it and it's going to make them do even more fabulous with this year's 5th grade that have had it as well, I can assure you the 5th grade scores at Kiva are going to be even higher. So I'll take it.
Mr. Jackson.
I just want to say quickly, thank you for the presentation, gentlemen. And Dave, I wanted to thank you for also making sure that we did provide, when we looked at these results, take it in context. And you highlighted that point. I think it's critical. And thank you for doing that. And I think sometimes we're remiss up here to celebrate
good results when we see them. I don't know how we do it, but we can pull the punch bowl away very quickly, and oftentimes I'm just looking for the punch. But I just want to say, I mean, this is not insignificant in my opinion. These are, you know, we of course we need to strive to do better. We always do, but these are results significantly higher than the state average, and we are right behind some outstanding public school districts that are many times have a lot, don't face the same challenges we do, and we're still nipping at their heels. It shows to me the outstanding leadership we have in this district, especially considering how tough it's been the last couple years. And we maintain our A rating, and we are, you know, now on average, as Dr. Peterson pointed out, 20 points ahead of the state average. These are scores to celebrate. Of course, we need to look for higher goals, higher scores down the road, and better results, but for God's sakes, I mean, let's celebrate some great results when we get it, and our parents should have a lot of confidence that this is an outstanding school district and we are delivering. So anyway, thank you.
Madam President, Board Member Jackson, yes, I think we need to celebrate the hard work of our teachers and the schools and our building leaders. Let's celebrate, but then let's not be afraid to look at the data and have hard conversations. You guys have more data, I know Dr. Peterson shared with you, and I can assure you that we're going to have lots more conversations in the spring about the work that we're doing behind the scenes at certain grade levels and the questions that are being asked at one of our grade levels in mathematics and one in language arts, to make sure that we're doing everything right by curriculum design, delivery of instruction, and leadership. So I will publicly celebrate the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers at SUSD. You know, yay them, they did great, so I'll take it.
Mrs. Perleberg.
Well, I'll join in the thank yous as well, and thank you to SUSD for you know, this Common Core. We've been, as parents and stakeholders, we've been hearing about for years, and here it is to a degree, even though it is Arizona standards. And yes, I agree. We have a lot to celebrate. We see the challenges. I love the dialogue that I'm already hearing as far as all of our schools, no matter what their scores at what levels look like. They're looking at this as a tool, a start, a stepping stone, and I agree with Board Member Kirby that we want to, as a board, certainly support whatever our sites and leadership want to do, and the work they want to take away from these scores. We want to support that, and thank you for remembering the voices of our principals as well, because I agree, our teachers and site leaders and our district as a whole working together to identify, you know, where we do great, where we can do better, obviously is incredibly important. We always want to be supportive of that goal for success. So I also just kind of wanted to comment that I think putting all this in perspective, I'm going to make a wild guess that it went well on our sites because our emails did not blow up after all these results came up. So thank you everyone who was involved in that communication and those discussions at our site, and did really obviously help our families put all this in perspective as well. So thank you.
No, I appreciate that comment, and I think we did do good work with our building leaders and our teachers and department chairs in terms of messaging and working with that, so we could reduce that angst when those were released, and the chatter was minimal. So thank you for sharing that.
Good point.
Mrs. Kirby.
I just wanted to respond to Board Member Hartman and Jackson. You know, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. These results are good. They are very good. But I guess I'm always reaching for more. You know, when I moved here 20 years ago, it's a long time ago, I'm almost a native, I had a young family, and I asked my realtor, where's the best school district in the valley? Had no clue where I was going to live. And it was consistently Scottsdale and Kyrene. And many of you in the audience may remember those days. Scottsdale and Kyrene, Scottsdale and Kyrene. So that's my vision. These scores are good, but I want to go to great. I want to be, again, the best school district in the valley, hands down, without a doubt. And I believe that we have the teachers, the principals, and we have the families and the students to do that. And so I know I'm pushing you, but I'm doing it with love. So, and then with respect to the collective capacity, I'm just a simpleton. That's the theory of everything is way beyond my pay grade. I think of a teacher in a classroom with 35 kids who's in an Algebra 1 class, and they may have students from a 3rd grade math level to a 10th grade math level for 55 minutes, and they've got to teach Algebra 1. Now, I think of the elementary schools who we do know the kids are coming hungry. They're coming from all over the valley, not just the neighborhood school. They're driving for 45 minutes to get to school. When I'm talking about collective capacity, let's give our teachers what they need to meet those individual needs of every kid. Because I'm finding it hard to believe that our teachers are set up for success in the classrooms as they look today. I believe there's opportunity there. So, and I know that opportunity will cost money. I'm not naive. So I'm just encouraging you. Tell us what do they need? Boots on the ground, in the classroom, day in, day out.
No, and I agree with you, and I think to bring it full circle to Michael Fullen, he also speaks to what he calls the moral purpose, and I think I can speak for Dave and myself that we look at this as a moral purpose in terms of providing those resources, closing those gaps. That's all of our duty.
And Board Member Kirby, I don't know if 20 years almost makes you a native or not. I'm a native, so I don't know if you can claim that or not. I'll leave it at that.
I wanted to thank both of you for the presentation. You must have done a good job because Mr. Jackson, who just walked out of the room, seemed to totally get the same thing that the 4 of us got when we went and heard about AZ merit scores before the results even came out. And a couple things that strike me as the difference between AZ merit and the Ames is that my understanding is that for AZ merit, if a student is taking a class that's ahead of their grade level, where at Ames they always took their grade level class, but if they're actually taking a class that's higher than their grade level, they are tested at that higher level. Is that's one of the things that I understand?
Yeah, that'd be correct. So if you look at some of the things we're looking at, for instance, with the at the 6th grade math, where that gap in terms of SUSD performance versus the state is probably most narrowest than any other area. That's also the first year that we begin to accelerate our students. So you have 6th grade math students that have accelerated a year to 7th grade. So this year they took not only that 7th grade test, the course they're currently in, they also were asked to take the 6th grade test.
Oh.
So, what was the impact upon that kid of taking 2 tests, of taking a second test at their grade level but not at their course, and not having those course objectives and standards as recent? So I think there's a lot of variables with that. And I don't know where the ADE is going forward with that. If we're just going to solely test at the course that they're currently taking, I would hope so, but I don't know if that's the case.
Well, I was commending you because I know when we went to the East Valley School Board Consortium, the same kind of a cautionary tale was told to to the other 4 of us that were in attendance that evening, and so I think you guys did a great job in the messaging to parents, and I agree wholeheartedly with Mrs. Perleberg that the fact that we didn't hear a lot from parents indicates that you did a fabulous job in a very difficult time, because we've seen some of the states that weren't prepared with the messaging and weren't prepared to help people understand, and things didn't go so well.
It was a team effort. Obviously, the teachers in the classrooms having the conversations, the building principals with the parents, as well as the work of Dr. Benson, her team, Dr. Ross, and of course Debbie Fowler, our testing coordinator, and of course the communications department. All hands on deck. We knew we needed to make sure that clear information was given to all.
Here,
So,
well said. Yep.
Right. And I also wanted to make clear to people that one of the things that we heard that night at that time too was that the teachers were very involved this time with the cut scores. It wasn't, it was people that were in the classroom, teachers that were in the classroom that determined the cut scores. And the message that we got is that due to it being more standards based and at a higher level, that they felt the standards were very much at a NAEP level. And so for a lot of the public school critics who would say that the public schools needed to really test their kids according to a national standard, the NAEP has been the national standard for quite a while. And so we want people to know that it really was a tough test to score, but it also gives us a great indication of where we can make improvements. I wanted to thank you for your focus on teaching and learning and achievement in the presentation. And I must say to my colleague, Mrs. Hartman, that, thank you for the balanced approach to the presentation. If one of those legs is shorter than the other, you still can't reach your goal. So even if they are all under the table, they have to come at about the same level. And I just want to caution people sometimes when you hear an obvious statement, don't infer that the opposite is true. Sometimes that happens, and I don't know if that's the intention or not, but I certainly would caution people not to think that way. So if something is, if we talk about supporting our teachers or supporting our principals, just because we're talking about it doesn't mean that that isn't happening every day. And I want to get everybody I know in this room supports each other's success out there. And I think that's the most important thing, especially in times like this when, the state with the lowest amount of support, financial support. At least we can give each other support and a promise of helping each other be successful in whatever they're doing. And I would contend, based on my standing Google search, is Scottsdale Unified School District. So it comes up every day. I get a list, and based on the real estate ads that come into that list every single day, I would say we are still a district of choice. And I commend everybody in this room and you, Dr. Peterson. Every time I see that list come up and I see more and more realty listings in Scottsdale, and they all say Scottsdale Unified School District, and it makes me proud to be a part of this community. So thank you for your presentation. I'd like to ask for a recess until 7:15, please. 5 minutes.
No, of course.
Give everybody a little chance. 9A, it's an action item, revision to 2016-17 high school planning guide.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Dr. Von Echten is going to bring back the recommendations that he's had from previous meetings to have the high school planning guide approved for the next school year.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Madam President, governing board members, it's a pleasure to bring this before you again tonight. A review of process and recommended changes for the 2016-17 high school planning guide, and seek your approval of the planning guide itself. With that said, I just want to go back to my last presentation and again review the composition of the committee. It's myself and Executive Director Diane Whitmore and my administrative assistant, along with our Ed Services assistant principals, our lead counselor for the district, a representative from SEMAR, and Chris Thuman of e-learning. And in fact, tonight, many of those members are with us in our audience. If I could just take a moment and have them stand and be recognized for their hard work and contributions, that'd be great. They spend a lot of hard work. And as long as I'm thanking people, let me thank another group in advance. Pretty soon we will be creating our course selection sheets and such, and I want to thank our Ed Services administrative assistants at each of our sites for the work they do with all of that, and of course our translation services in getting this document prepared and out to our community. Lastly, within the high school planning committee, we also have our featured guests, which include curriculum specialists, our lead teacher, and other district and program directors. So what I wanted to share with you a little bit tonight is the communication system and what we have in place in terms of reaching out and having all of our stakeholders be a part of this. So with that said, we have our curriculum specialists that work with Dr. Whitmore, and of course they reach out to our department chairs, seek information, work with our department chairs in terms of recommendation and suggestion, and should bring that to the committee. Likewise, be reporting out from the committee. Our Ed Services AP have a responsibility in working and coordinating with their building principal, their department chairs and counselors at their site, and again, bring information to the committee. Dr. Thuman works likewise with our online learning department. Our Director of Curriculum, Dr. Whitmore, works with that curriculum team and our program specialists in terms of that two-way communication and dialogue. And lastly, our lead counselor works with our counselors. In fact, she does a fantastic job of creating minutes after each of our minutes that she produces and disseminates to our counselors after every meeting. So at the first read last month, I tried to illustrate that over the last few years, there has been an attempt to remove anywhere we have competition between an honors course and an AP course. And in review of the high school planning guide over the years, there was three distinct areas. We had English 3 honors, which was discontinued, or I should say English 3 honors, which competed directly with our English 3 AP. That course was discontinued 2 years ago. U.S. History Honors, which competed directly with U.S. History AP, and that course was discontinued effective this year. And then World History Honors, which competes directly against our Advanced Placement World History, and the recommendation has been that we discontinue that for the next school year. You know, it was stated at the last meeting that there seems to be, or there's a perception of at least, a systematic elimination of our honors courses. And I want to be completely transparent and share with you that, yes, there have been other honors courses that have been removed or banked, but for specific reasons. The three I mentioned before were purposeful, and I've stated that. But for instance, when we look at Physics 2 AP, that was banked a couple years ago, but that was due entirely to changes by the College Board. The course became a 2-year course, and it wasn't feasible for us any longer. Latin 4 Honors was banked last year. We have been able to move that program to e-learning, but frankly, that was a course that was tied very directly to an individual instructor. We no longer have that instructor with us. German 3, German 4 Honors was banked, and again, due to declining enrollment, and that's a recommendation, by the way. And then English 4 Humanities Honors was banked effective this year. Excuse me, this is again a recommendation. Will be banked, hope to be banked next year. And again, what we determined is that it was not addressing the English 4 standards, shouldn't be utilized that, and it became an elective. And then again, we saw declining enrollment. But with that said, I believe for every honors course that we have banked for a variety of reasons, we've also done our due diligence in trying to create and bring back honors courses wherever we can extend. So for instance, relative to our world languages, Russian 4 Honors and Russian 4 AP is recommended as an extension of those programs. Japanese 4 Honors in the past, and the recommendation of Japanese 5 AP is a recommendation. And although we don't have Physics 2 AP anymore, we are now recommending the adoption of Physics 2 honors so that those students that have that inclination to take a second year have that opportunity. And again, we might not have humanities, but we've looked at trying to create an AP Art History e-learning experience for those students that wish to delve into the arts and humanities. Additionally, I would like to say that we've seen an increased dual enrollment courses and an increased number of dual enrollment enrollment itself. And we've also seen the introduction of middle school honors in these last 2 years. So I don't think there is really a systematic attempt to eliminate honors in the Scottsdale Unified School District. So my justification, and this is what I presented to you at our last meeting, and the feelings of the committee as why we have moved forward in identifying 3 courses that we feel compete and need to be banked, and specifically to the World History AP. One, I've said, students may be inclined to take that path of least resistance, takes the less rigorous option. Honors courses this particular honors course receives the same weighted grade as the competing AP course. Our AP course, all AP courses require what's called an AP audit. Essentially what the College Board expects is that the teacher teaching that course must present to the College Board for approval a syllabus of that course and what the resources are to be used. And also we do have an expectation of our students to take that test. I think these 2 factors assure rigor and accountability for that AP course that we can guarantee. The College Board position is that, I should say representatives of the College Board that I've spoke to and Dr. Benson has spoken to have a position that World History AP is suitable for our sophomores and appropriate. The World History AP test participation and results, when aligned to our American History AP results, are consistent. So the notion that AP History is just far too difficult, I don't think is an argument. And lastly, I do believe that this promotes greater rigor for our general education World History course. And with that, I'm making a recommendation that the Governing Board approve revisions to the SUSD High School Planning Guide for the 2016-17 school year.
Governing Board comments? Mrs. Kirby.
Thank you. So thank you, Dr. Von Echten. After the last presentation, you and I and Dr. Benson had an opportunity to sit and talk about a much bigger question that I had, but this came into it, this played into it. And we'll use this, since it's what we're voting on tonight, kind of as the working example. So when I looked at what happened when we eliminated U.S. history honors, let me first say I agree with you that we always want to encourage, and hopefully with our teacher and our counselors and our parents and their students, to pursue a level of academics that they are ready to tackle. So I don't disagree that we want to encourage kids to go from honors to AP. So you and I are aligned on that. But my concern when we met is, for every student from an honors class that went up to AP, 2 to 4 dropped down to general education or regulars. So we actually, at the end of the day, with respect to having children pursue rigor, we ended up in arguably a worse place than if we had just left honors alone and still encourage those 1 or 2 kids in honors to go ahead and pursue AP. And at the same time, what's stopping us from encouraging 1 or 2 kids in general education regulars class from pursuing an honors, right? So we talked about all that, and it was a great discussion, and you've had time to think about it, and I guess I'd like to just dialogue with you a bit on, after we had that conversation, you heard our comments from the last meeting, kind of what's your response to those questions?
Well, again, my contention has been that, one, I think we need to take a hard look then as what constitutes honors and distinguishes that from general ed and AP, and in particular when we have 3 of them. I'm not completely sure what that is. I do believe that you're right. When we have discontinued the U.S. history honors, about a third of those students went on and grew our AP courses, so to speak, or took on that more challenging course. And there was others that took the general ed U.S. history. I will say, though, there's a little bit of a different variable here in that at a couple of our schools, those students take the option of taking a dual enrollment U.S. history. So there's even perhaps a level of rigor that is different there. But regardless, I do think that those students that chose not to take that more rigorous course, but that remained or chose to be in a general ed class, for whatever reason, they deservedly should be challenged there. And I would hope that there is that, what we just spoke to before, addressing that needs of the classroom of those that are down in a 13% range versus those that pass at a 70. I would hope that those same students are being challenged in that same way in terms of a social studies curriculum and instruction that's rich, and they have those opportunities to explore it and meet their needs.
Okay, so, I'm tracking with you so far. But can we talk, though, about the practicality? And again, this is real world, boots on the ground in the classroom. I'm envisioning a teacher in a class of, I think last time I threw out 32, 30, and someone said it could be 35 or 40 students in a history class, a general education history class, and they may have students that are at a second or third grade reading level and students that are at a 12th grade reading level. And I'm struggling to understand, to try to put myself in that teacher's shoes. How do they do it? How do they meet the needs of that very wide range of spectrum of academic achievement? Because and meet the needs of those in the second, third grade level, and meet the needs, the individualized learning, meet the needs all the way through, all 40 kids in between to the highest 12th grade level. I'm just...
Well, I think that's a fundamental challenge for any of our teachers at any grade level in terms of being able to reach at different abilities of our students and differentiate in a manner. I'll admit that's an incredible challenge. But I'm not sure that the alternative, creating then teacher specialists that you're exclusive to teaching an AP course and your specialty is only teaching to this group in terms of an honors course, and this group over here is the specialist that teaches only to a gen ed class. I don't know if that's the appropriate answer either.
Okay.
Even within those classes, and as I said before, in my experience of teaching U.S. history AP, you saw very different students there. You saw some that were high achievers, incredibly motivated, self-starters and self-directed, and others that were incredibly gifted children but didn't have the motivation. They had an innate intelligence and were there for a challenge that was really kind of unique to themselves, and how you got them to write an essay or tell you what historical meaning there was in a document could be just as challenging as that student in the general ed class who has that of a reading ability at third grade and that of the 12th grader. Okay. So it really, even in those unique teaching situations, if we want to splice and dice and put them here and have our teacher specialists, you're still going to differentiate in some degree.
Okay, so let me keep going with you then here. So our AP classes are, one could argue, ability-based grouped classes. They're very high achievers, highly motivated, but that is a true college-bound curriculum, college-bound class. It's a unique kid. You brought up the differentiation for the regulars or the general ed class, and the definition, as I understand it, the differentiation is high achievers, low achievers. They're all in the same class, and individual needs of students are met. Is there a way for us to solve this by focusing on that general ed regulars class, agreeing that we want a differentiated instruction in that classroom, but again, setting the teacher up for success to deliver that differentiated instruction and meeting the needs of all the students in their class? Is there a way to do that?
Well, I think it ties to the similar comments you made regarding Dr. McNeil and myself's previous presentation. Sure, there's a way, and I think it's just going to take time and money. I mean, we need to look at how we can provide those resources for that classroom teacher. look at staffing of all of our courses. I think we need to look at perhaps then the professional development we're offering, but time for those teachers to indulge in that and have that opportunity, and time for those teachers to meet as groups within departments and content areas to, again, work on their craft, share best practices, and advance their work in that manner.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that we can do this, but again, we need that investment in those to truly achieve a differentiated classroom where differentiated instruction can be successfully delivered. I'm a simpleton again, and I get the professional development, and that gets kind of vague for me, but one simple way of doing that is to reduce those class sizes from 35 or 40 to something much smaller, so that even if they have a 3rd grade to a 12th grade reading level in the same classroom, they have fewer students in that classroom that they have to meet their needs. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm offering up here is a compromise to this solution, to this dilemma that we're in. I have a couple of other, I'd say less significant concerns about eliminating honors, and I'll hit them in a second. But I do think that we as a board need to really understand what we're doing when we're asking our teachers to differentiate instruction. Because as I understand it, the design of a differentiated classroom starts with a highly qualified teacher, quality individual, and a smaller class size so that they can do it. So I kind of hate to bet on the come and say, yeah, let's get rid of honors, world history, and let's hope we can get our class sizes down, because the reality is, if we're at 35 or 40, they may need to be cut in half for a teacher to successfully meet the needs of every student in that class. And again, comes back to investment. So help me as a board member with this dilemma that I have.
Sure.
I appreciate that he's going to give me space to share a story. Madam President, Board Member Kirby, in response to your question, I think that what I want us to be really cautious about here is in this conversation not to acknowledge that it's already happening in high-level classrooms across SUSD. So in context with our previous conversation, as part of an amazing organization with committed teachers, rockstar principals, an amazing and gifted teaching and learning team, including the members you've got, to my right and behind me, we have high levels of learning happening in certain classrooms, and it's our job to promote that and to kind of create and foster the learning opportunities for all of our teachers to get there. So while yes, class size is significant in any conversation that we have, it's easier to differentiate when we have less kiddos in a classroom, especially if we're talking about a targeted RTI type of intervention, when we're talking with smaller groups of kiddos who need more support. But in my last lap with department chairs, my favorite comment from a department chair when I walked in and shook hands was, "Who do you think I have in here? Which kids do you think I have in here? Do I have honors kids, AP kids, or reg ed kids?" And I couldn't tell. It was a reg ed classroom. Getting it done, high levels of learning, total engagement, personalized learning. That's what great teaching looks like. And all of our teachers do something amazing, but that's the kind of thing we have to aspire to. So when we talk about eliminating an honors level classroom, we're not talking about lessening rigor. We're talking about supporting our teachers, working with teachers to make a more informed understanding of what that looks like and give them the supports they need. I appreciate that was part of this first conversation. Our teachers have less time to work together than anybody in the Valley. They need more time to work together moving forward in terms of professional development to support each other. So in this conversation, I don't want us to be remiss in acknowledging there are places and teachers that are getting it done.
Okay, and I agree. I mean, I don't want to be negligent, but I also know that there are places in our district, many places, where they're struggling. I've talked to the teachers, I've been in the classrooms, so I don't want to be remiss of them either.
Correct.
So there's my dilemma. Along the other concern that I have is if we are eliminating our honors classes, which is the curriculum we can control, we're slowly giving up local control of our curriculum to College Board. Because in these AP classes, it's my understanding that College Board sets the curriculum, they train the teachers, they have the tests. It's very College Board centric. And so I'm worried because I do believe that our leaders sitting at the table and behind that podium, I can't see anymore, Dr. Benson, are better equipped to meet the needs of our students in our district, even in all college-bound students, even those that aren't taking AP courses, than College Board is. And so, you know, what other classes are we looking at? Do we have any more in our future honors classes that we're looking to eliminate because we have an AP College Board offering?
No, as I said, there's been 3 that have been identified over the last 2 years. The English 3 honors, U.S. History honors, and World History honors, which directly competed against an AP course. You know, the College Board, it can be a wonderful partner, and one thing I want to say is that I don't know that they dictate a curriculum. Again, I mentioned an audit that they do, and that's to ensure that the syllabus does address the standards. No different than a requirement that a principal might have of seeing course syllabus at their own school, that they ensure when they sign off to the state that we are addressing the standards mandated by the state. It's the same kind of approval process. But outside of that, there's incredible freedom how you want to address those standards or prepare the students for a test, which again is a recommendation. We don't require that test be taken, but it's again, that's our goal, is to prepare students to do that and have the potential to earn college credit. So I don't want to necessarily paint a picture of fearing an outside entity. It does, as a third party or an outside lens, provide some perspective in terms of the quality of that course, in terms of the curriculum offered and such. But the independence of that teacher to teach that curriculum then once in there is that in the same of any other course in terms of how they want to accomplish. We have an English course at one of our high schools that has a thematic lens to it in terms of enticing students to get into that course. It's incredibly popular. It's very well done. It's taught by the Teacher of the Year in Arizona, and it's exactly what I'm talking about. It meets the standards of AP history. It addresses what their expectations are. But outside of that, that teacher's had complete freedom to create a course that is meaningful to both her and her students.
Okay. And then my last concern is, we talked a bit about in the last meeting about college applications and unweighting GPAs for honors courses, et cetera, et cetera. And I took it upon myself to go out and look at university websites to see, well, do they weight, do they unweight, do they look at, do they ask if it's honors, and it's confusing to say the least, very hard to get that kind of sampling. So I said, well, I'm just going to go to an expert. So I called a college coach, college application coach. That's her job, is to help students with college applications. And I asked her, I said, talk to me about honors classes. Do the colleges and universities, do they unweight for honors? Do they even ask about honors? Do they care? And interestingly enough, she said that the public universities are starting to unweight, and in some cases not ask whether or not it's an honors class or not. But she said the private universities are still very much concerned about the level of rigor that students are taking, and they still highly value honors courses. And she said the reality is, if you have a student who has an honors course on their transcript, and you have a comparable student who's in a gen ed or a regulars course, they're going to go with the honors kid every single time. So, you know, that is my last concern with this, is are we inadvertently, is that a unintended consequence where our students will not be poised to compete nationally to get in to private universities simply because we didn't have an honors offering for them.
No, I don't think that's the case. You're right, and I think that whoever you went to has got some points there that need to be taken. Again, speaking to the example I gave in terms of our in-state universities, the impact we have for our kids regarding if we talk about weighting, well, it becomes class rank. And so that's an issue I have relative back to that weighting of an honors course equivalently to that of an AP course. If those are not equivalent courses, yet they're sharing the same weight, that kid that gets edged out of the 10% and loses scholarship opportunity to an in-state university, that hurts. I can't speak to the private universities or institutions, what they look at. I'm sure those admissions officers certainly review a transcript and look for honors and advanced placement courses or international baccalaureate, all those things when they're weighing those students. I would hope the students that are seeking some of our premier universities across the nation are in fact taking that, no disrespect, that AP course. I think that carries more weight. That's my own opinion. So you're absolutely right. It varies across university and it varies across state in terms of what they look at in terms of that transcript. Transcript is one piece to a larger application process, though, in terms of sure. Other work in that body of work that the student has.
Okay, well, thank you for your work on this and the dialogue and the time. I certainly respect your opinion. We may not agree at the end of the day, but I do appreciate the listening to understand.
Absolutely.
So thank you both.
Mrs. Hartman, I believe you were next.
Thank you. So first, I'd just like to thank the high school planning committee for the good work here, because I know this is a great example of kind of going above and beyond your day-to-day job to really continue to improve, what achievement looks like in our district. So thank you. This is actually, I also want to thank Dr. Van Echten, the work you did since the last meeting and this one, because I had lots of questions in the beginning and a lot of emails back and forth, and I was probably a board member who thought, oh, don't take away honors. In fact, I did say that as much. But this analysis that you did and that you shared with all of us, I thought was outstanding. Because one of the questions I always try to ask are open-ended questions, which is one example I asked was, what did we learn from English AP that we could apply to history? And, and as we've migrated from honors to AP in English, what could we learn as we migrate from honors to AP in history? And this is actually an incredible takeaway. So there's two things I just wanted to share that is the reason why kind of my needle has moved on this. What I think is just phenomenal is when you see over time in 2000, let's see here, it's 13, 14, we've gone from where we had an honors and an AP, not consistent across all schools, to just 2 years later in 15, 16, we have no honors in just an AP offering. The number of students are actually higher now taking AP. And I was not necessarily, that isn't kind of where I was coming from. Initially, I thought students would walk away, but it doesn't look like that's what's happening. And what I think is really phenomenal is you look at some of our schools where there's kind of best practices in English honors happening. 72% of our English 4 kids, 72% are either taking an AP or College 101 in English 4. 52% in another school, 41% in another. So what that says to me is it's not unique. It's something that when we raise the expectations for all kind of have the opportunity to rise to that bar, and they are, which is amazing. And then I had a conversation with one of those outstanding teachers who teaches AP, and she said something to me that was really important. And she kind of shared, I went through this experience where, losing honors to just AP and kind of the emotional side, but I can tell you as we go through it, it was the right thing to do. But what really stuck with me is when she said, I recruit students into my classroom because I believe all kids can perform at this level. And when 72% of an entire graduation class is taking English 4 AP honors and or College 101, 102 English, that says something. That's just a tremendous, tremendous outcome. So I would just encourage us to share best practices, to invest in the professional development, to invest in the things that we need to do to get those kind of results, and that's amazing. The last thing I'll mention is, it's interesting just because my 2 kids are off to college and we spent, all our time and stuff working with college recruiters and stuff. You'll get as many opinions as you'll get, as many people you ask will have those. As many people, you'll get as many opinions in what the right answer is. So I don't know if there is a right answer, but I can share from my experience. We went down both the public education as well as the private education universities, and quite frankly, private universities, they don't even look at honors because it's too much of a subjective measure. They look at AP and they look at SAT and ACT scores, and there's no better way to prepare for SAT and ACT scores than the highest level of rigor you can achieve as a student, and teachers to support it. And that is at the bottom line. As a parent, what I look at is what is the greatest opportunity, and encourage my child to go down that path of whatever that looks like for them. So I don't know, I've come full circle on this, and it just seems like we've got great practices, we've got evidence-based results, and to the extent we can share it and move that forward and trust the work of our subject matter experts here and trust the recommendation. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at on this, but I really appreciate you taking the time and your team taking the time to pull all this data together to convey a story. So thank you.
No, I appreciate that. I want to thank a team that puts that data together. I work closely and well supported, and that is the kind of data we routinely look at. I think another important piece there, when you speak to the changes with the English honors, is that when we look at again an external measure such as ACT, we haven't lost. In fact, those scores have nudged up ever so slightly. But again, it was we nudged it in the positive direction. So I think that's important to note.
Mrs. Perleberg.
Thank you. And I guess I want to thank everyone, including everyone here tonight, for this dialogue. I obviously do find it incredibly valuable. Both sides balanced, and I'm sure we could include our teachers and staff here tonight. We could just go back and forth all night long. And I do respect that, and respect that we are talking about opinions and we are talking about perceptions. But as I did kind of state in our last meeting, I'm not overly fond of kind of being put in the position of a referee. So I'm going to read my comments so I am concise. I apologize for the written statement here, but otherwise it'll just go on all night. So when this was first presented, I expressed serious concerns regarding the level of meaningful buy-in, clear understanding, and a shared vision of what is best for students being reflected in the decisions made. Here specifically, especially for the education professionals affected the most directly by these decisions. Those concerns, unfortunately, still strongly exist for me at this time. I respect and acknowledge the valid opinions provided for the path taken, and in no way wish to disrespect the hard work being done every day in our district. But at this time, I do not feel comfortable in any way dismissing the other side of this significant debate, or the various arguments regarding meaningful differentiation and options in our district. I won't deny the opposing opinions in general resonate deeply with me personally, but my opinions would and should be set aside once I am confident as a board member that the processes in place and the culture within our organization brings us all firmly to a collaborative place of best practice and effective real-world application for our unique communities. The goal is clearly to set our classrooms and teachers up for success, so in turn all students can reach their own individual level of highest achievement. I firmly believe that our district stakeholders will continue to make incredible strides towards that goal, but my vote tonight humbly reflects the important conversations and work I believe remains to be done. Thank you all for all your hard work. And thank you, Mitch, for your leadership.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I want to thank you especially for sitting down with me as I poured over everything. And sorry if when I tend to use a red pen sometimes, and I think when I first opened up my notes, you were a little taken back. But I want to thank you for confirming some of the things that concerned me. And this really opened my eyes because I had no idea as a board member that we had schools in our district that weren't offering AP classes just to students in those buildings. To me, it doesn't matter where you live in Scottsdale, you should always have access to a class that's of the highest rigor. And it doesn't matter what community you come from, what neighborhood you come from. And I do understand that we're working toward dual enrollment, and so some of those students may have decided to take a college course, and that wouldn't be reflected here. But when I see that we have schools that don't even have a single student in an AP course, that troubles me greatly. I wanted to thank the committee because I know that this is something that's always done outside of your normal day, and I know that a committee assignment in SUSD is never taken lightly. I mean, people pour their hearts into these decisions, and my fear and what I've heard is, Mrs. Sneed, why would I sit on a committee and do my research and talk to my departments and bring forth what I hear is legitimate concerns if it's just going to be tossed out when it comes before the board. And so I think my colleagues know that I've placed a lot of faith in the committee process in SUSD, partly because I've sat on the high school planning guide committee before. So I see some of the courses that are brought forward and recommended by high schools, and I've seen them take a suggestion to not approve some courses. I know it's taken very seriously. I would hope that if we have any ninth grade students, please, if there's any ninth grade students that are reading at a second or third grade level, these should be students that should be receiving interventions. I mean, we have interventions set up for that, for those kind of students. And to me, that's a different story. I mean, that's just a totally different dialogue. I think back, sometimes I scratch my head when I hear about how difficult it is to differentiate. I wonder how the one-room schoolhouses did it from kindergartens to 12th graders. Yes, it takes a great teacher. And some of our teachers are new and need more professional development. Our counselors have a play in this. If they aren't recommending kids for the highest rigor, we have to ask why. Are we afraid that they're not going to pass the AP test? Because quite frankly, what was 30-some, 40% of the students nationwide actually pass the test and get the college credit. We shouldn't expect that 100% of them would do that. I'm sorry, I'm not asking you questions.
That's quite all right.
I know the College Board does not set the curriculum. They just want to make sure to check the syllabus and to make sure that whatever is expected for an AP student is covered one way or the other. So that's not the same thing. I'm a little troubled by selective comparisons. If a student's record, if a college is going to look and say between an honors and a in a gen ed, I'll take the honors every time. I understand that. But by the same token, if we have an honors and an AP, I'll take that AP every time. And that's what we heard. That's what we've been hearing, not only in private colleges and state universities, but in the very competitive colleges and the competitive programs within our state universities. And one of the things that parents look at when they have a school of choice is the national merit finalists that come out of those schools. And it's very tough to become a national merit finalist if you don't have some strong AP coursework. So I just want to, again, thank the committee. Thank you for your help. Thank you for helping me understand whether or not I was reading this correctly. I think you did a great job in explaining it to me and answering a lot of my questions. And as I said at the last board meeting, I've never once in every year that I've been here have voted to reduce rigor. It's always been to increase. And we can quibble a little bit over the numbers, but I think that especially the historical numbers help us see that over time, people get used to the change. And even, we've learned that from input from teachers that at first they resisted. And then after they started to adjust, they now would not want to go back. And that's my fear, is that if we selectively choose and don't stay on a steady path, that we may slip back. So I know I didn't ask you any questions in public because I asked you a ton of questions in private, and thank you for all of that.
Welcome.
If there are no more comments, can we have a motion for item 9A, revisions to the 2016-17 high school planning guide? Mr. Jackson?
I'll be real brief.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I did make I've changed my mind. I think my fellow colleagues up here, we've certainly struggled with this a little bit. When you see outstanding teachers like Katie Asali get up here, it's certainly moving. And I'm not an educator. A lot like Board Member Hartman, I certainly had an opinion after I heard Katie last time, like absolutely, and I've come full circle too. For a lot of the reasons, frankly, President Sneed, with her comment, you too, Dr. Von Echten, but a lot of things President Sneed said, this has been a very difficult debate, because there's really, I don't know if there's an absolute clear answer on this one, honestly, and especially for a non-educator. But I agree with President Sneed when she said we have an outstanding committee that worked hard on this. And I know a lot of these individuals, and I'm very remiss to not take the recommendations of a committee like this. They worked hard on this, and so I just wanted to say that. So thanks again, Mitch, for all your hard work here.
Mrs. Hartman?
Oh, I was ready to vote.
Okay, do you want to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept 9A revisions to the high school planning guide.
And second? I will second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
That motion passes 3-2. Thank you, Mitch. The next item is 9B, revision of Governing Board Policy Section K, Community Relations, KFA 3KL.
Madam President, members of the board, oh, that looks kind of small. I have for you the last 3 revisions to the K section of our policy manual. If you'll remember, it was way back in June that we discussed these for the first read of the work study, and then you approved most of the section, and we just had these few remaining left. So I have these here for you for a second read. There are some relatively minor changes. Policy KFA, which is entitled Public Conduct on School Property, and addresses how people behave and how we can rein them in when they're misbehaving on our property. Two things I wanted to highlight. Oh my gosh, this is tiny.
Do you need a printout?
No, I can manage. I'm sorry that you guys, that whoever's watching on the screen can't see it as well. Okay.
Down to that right corner, hit the plus.
Oh, I think she was just going to hit a highlight.
Zoom? Is that Zoom? Oh, thank you. Oh, you're the awesomest. Okay, so one thing I wanted to highlight that was not a change is that this policy contains restrictions on members of the general public, and that those restrictions include, that definition of general public includes anyone who is not a student, faculty member, staff member, or employee. And that section of the policy specifically talks about the rules about visiting classrooms, preference that we have somebody talk to a principal or the superintendent before they go to classrooms and that kind of thing. We also have a policy called Visitors in Schools that addresses that as well, and we often wind up using that policy, just as a side note, to help us when we have people who are being disruptive in the schools. So the change to this policy is simply to add the fact that the use of medical marijuana is not allowed on any district property or in any district vehicle. The next policy for a second read is KFA, Public Conduct on School Property. And similarly, this one at the end, I thought it was at the end. This doesn't have the red line. Public conduct on school property. In general, my recollection is that the three of these all added medical marijuana to the policy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, this one doesn't, for whatever reason, have the red line.
Mm-hmm.
And then KFAA, smoking on school premises at public functions. Again, we'd previously had language that said tobacco, cigarettes, or similar devices. This is a little bit more explicit to talk about tobacco substitutes, e-cigarettes, that kind of thing, vape cigarettes, that kind of thing. So those were added to those. So with that, if anyone has any questions, I'll take that. Otherwise, we're ready for you to approve those last three policies.
Mrs. Hartman, your light on? Okay. So I'll make a motion that the governing board approve revisions of governing board policies section K, KFA through KL. KFA is in regards to public conduct on school property. KFAA to smoking on school premises at public functions. And KHA, public solicitations in schools. Can I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Kirby seconded. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
That motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Future items. And at this time, the next item on the agenda is item 10, future items. Governing board members may propose topics for future consideration. Mrs. Hartman.
Thank you. I had 2 items for consideration. The first was to review the National Policy Board for Education Administration that you had sent out to us. I thought was a very thoughtful document. So the NPBEA 2015 Professional Standards for Education Leaders. And what I'd like to entertain is the opportunity to discuss how these standards, so how these professional standards for education leaders tie to our strategic plan, our leadership team evaluation process, and then our principal AP leadership development curriculum and goals. Okay, and then the second item that
can you send that to me? Like,
yeah, I'm going to give it to Sandra.
Oh, Sandra, fine.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm getting better at this. Okay, and then the second item that I thought would be of interest. At some point would be to discuss how we're building a succession organization and what are the processes and tools we have in place to support this goal. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other comment, then the dates of the upcoming meetings. Thursday, January 7th at 12 p.m. we have a study session. Tuesday, January 12th at 2 p.m. because that is the evening of the Martin Luther King dinner. So our regular meeting will be at 2 p.m. And that will be here. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, Sandra's going to try to get a hold of everybody so that we can have a pre-conference. Hopefully Thursday at 4, if that works. And maybe we can find that out now. It's fine for me. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up. At 4 o'clock at Mojave District Annex. I'm sorry, Mrs. Hartman? Does that work? Okay. So that looks like that's going to work. All right. And governing board reports. Mrs. Hartman.
All right. I put this in writing as well for Sandra. Okay. So since the last board meeting between November and December, the 3 areas that I always try to focus on in my spare time is community outreach, community partnerships, and then board development and governance. So couple of things that I had the privilege actually to do and participate in is from a community outreach perspective. Attended and worked with the SUPI leadership team, which included Principal Hummins and then Allison Bundy, and supported them through really an amazing project called the Imagine Project that was by author Diane Maroney, and had the opportunity to help Diane get in town to actually participate. She actually supported us as well as Children's First Academy, and used her methodology with 200 sixth graders imagining what their future might look like and empowering them to reach their dreams. So it was a pretty cool experience. Secondly, in community partnerships, continue to work with the Bus Business Unified for Scottsdale Schools organization, and specifically met with SkySong leadership to identify a location for a community outreach event that will hopefully be coming up in the next year, or excuse me, in the next couple of months, which really is continuing to link our relationship, the business community, that much closer with Scottsdale Unified. And then in terms of personal self-improvement and board development and governance, I attended the ASBA board development training, and two of the courses that I attended that really stuck with me, that I had plenty of notes, were on ethics, and the second was continuous improvement in terms of building successful, sustainable cultures and academic achievements. So it was a great learning opportunity. So thank you for allowing me to go to those as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Hartman. Mr. Jackson?
Along with Board Member Hartman, I've been continually working to on the Business United for Scottsdale Schools initiative, and we're making wonderful progress. And just like Board Member Hartman said, working on a community breakfast in February. So that's pretty exciting stuff.
Great. And I was fortunate to be able to attend the ASBA seminar too, and I got to hear Christine Marsh's first Teacher of the Year speech, and you were a big hit. I heard rock star several times that day, so that's a lot of compliment coming from some of our colleagues. And it's been busy month, but it was also, one of the highlights was helping Amy Moore over at Navajo with the STEAM Academy, contribute to their A+ application. So now we just, I understand it's been submitted, and so now we just sit back and hope for the best. They truly deserve it. They're doing some wonderful things there. And just from a personal point of view, I'm very sad that this is my last meeting with Dr. Peterson. You have really set the bar very, very high, Dr. Peterson, and I want to thank you for your service, thank you for your friendship, and thank you for your leadership. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye, that motion passes 5-0. Happy holidays to everyone. Really, go rest, go relax, and enjoy your families. Keep that work-life balance going.